Okay, hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Paul Voss. For those of you who don't know me, and I think I know many of you, I'm the Managing Director of Euroheat and Power, the European Association for District Heating and Cooling. Thanks very much for joining us today. I know how many webinars we're all sitting through at the moment, and I appreciate the competition for your time. And to have more than, I think, 140 of you now signed up and with us is really encouraging, and I think says something not only about the growing interest in the field of district heating, but also about the quality of this particular project, Upgrade DH, as we approach its end at this, the final dissemination workshop. So thanks again for making the time to be here. Now, as I started to prepare for this, I saw the slides that my colleague Oksana had helpfully prepared, including this one, which includes a picture of me, which I think is taken from my LinkedIn profile. And it made me extremely nostalgic because I'm somewhat embarrassed to admit that that picture is now 10 years old and I hardly recognize the young kid in it. And looking back, I know that when I took that picture, or when that picture was taken, my wife Bonnie was pregnant with our first child. It's also more or less exactly the time that I first got involved in district heating. And just to wrap up the story, this morning, the child with whom Bonnie was pregnant at that time fixed my web browser for me this morning. So quite a lot of time has passed, including for me in district heating and for all of us in the district heating community. And looking back, I would divide that period into three broad phases. The first years were spent shouting in Brussels, please pay attention to us, please listen. Heat is a very important part of the energy transition and nobody talks about it. District heating can contribute and nobody talks about it, at least not nearly enough. So we really spent those early years shouting for attention. The second phase, which began somewhere around 2015, was when Europe began to listen and began to try to build at least the first part of a regulatory framework. And we were somehow torn between being enthusiastic about all this new attention and scared of its consequences, because it's easy to say, pay attention to us and do what we want. But it's harder to accept that this will imply change and new responsibilities and new types of scrutiny. And I think this made the industry nervous for a time. Now, with the European Green Deal and the continuing maturity of our sector, I see a third phase, which is one in which I think we're finally ready to embrace the opportunity and the challenge in front of us. And I see that because I'm a Brussels person through the lens of the Fit for 55 package, the legislation that will underpin the European Green Deal. And I don't know how many of you have had a chance to look through it. It's 5,000 pages. But what you find is that heat is absolutely everywhere. So it's no longer a niche subject. And by extension, district heating is extremely prominent. We have a really high profile in the various texts, from energy efficiency to renewables to the ETS reform, but also the tone about district heating and its nature and its potential is so much more positive than when I started in all this 10 years ago. And that's, of course, thanks to the work that so many of you have been doing in the field. This means that there's a huge opportunity for this industry to grow. But that opportunity is contingent upon something. There's a big if here. And that if is our ability not only to grow, but to change and to improve and to involve. You know, we're effectively being offered a deal here, whereby district heating can become much, much larger than it is, play a much bigger role than it has done in the European energy system. But in exchange for that, we need to not only promise, but really deliver decarbonization, energy efficiency, and a more customer-friendly approach. All of this has to come. And that's normal. That's a perfectly reasonable deal. And I think it's one that we should accept with enthusiasm. As we enter these negotiations, I think we can do it with confidence and ambition and be a constructive partner for the EU. And I really hope that in a couple of years, we will have a new legal framework that drives this business forward in every sense of the term. But okay, this is all very Brussels-centric. This is all very EU-centric. And that's not really the point. The real point of district heating is what happens on the ground, in the ground, locally. And that brings me to the Upgrade DH project. You know, I'm often asked to give these kinds of talks, and of course you invariably say, oh, it's really a great project and I'm proud to be associated with it. This time I really mean it, first of all because it's been exceptionally well run, and shout out to Oksana and colleagues for the work, because it is an enormous effort to deliver something like this. But also, I've had a chance in a number of cases to see on the ground the work that's being done in local communities, in Lithuania, in the Netherlands, in Italy, and elsewhere. And it's so exciting because all this stuff that we talk about in principle, you're doing in practice. And it's extremely pleasing to see these things begin to develop. And when you go to a project like this, you see this fun combination of kind of what I call local heroes. So people really working in their community, trying to make things better. But you also see the support that comes from the much broader European district heating community, people working together, sharing ideas about how to bring this sector forward. And that's really the spirit of Upgrade DH. It's not just about how can we take an old network and make it perform a little better. It's how can we upgrade district heating in the broadest possible sense of the term, moving towards more renewables, moving towards more flexibility, moving towards greater efficiency. And it's inspiring to see that these things really can be done. I had a policy meeting with a lot of people from our industry yesterday, during which I guess I sort of challenged them to make this the decade of district heating. I also told them every lobby group wants to make this the decade of whatever it is that they represent. But I think this really means something for us. You know, we've been preparing for this phase for a long time now, laying the groundwork, getting our ideas ready, getting our commitments ready. And I think it's time to deliver in these 10 years. And I hope that in 2030, we are reflecting on a decade of enormous progress. I will, in the meantime, change my LinkedIn picture, I promise. And in the meantime, I'd like to sort of shut up now so that we can get on with our day. Again, I'd like to thank Oksana, the colleagues, the rest of the team, and everyone involved in this project for the hard work and for the ideas that have gone into it. And with that, I think I can stop and introduce Radoš Horacek, who is a team leader in the field of energy efficiency at DG Energy in the European Commission. I've known Radoš for a number of years now. He's an engaging speaker and is doing a lot of work in designing and soon implementing the legal framework that will get us from 2020 to 2030 and beyond. So Radoš, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm particularly happy to be able to present in front of such a numerous audience. I have seen yesterday about 170 registered people from all around of Europe, from also the Balkans, and very many experts from the district heating companies, from the municipalities, from the regions, from the academia, consultants, and many others. It really makes me happy to be in direct contact with such a large district heating community, because we on the policy level, we try to do the best for developing a future decarbonized district heating system across of Europe. And I'm happy that we are met with many open ears. And as Paul said, I am on the EU legislative, working on the EU legislative part. Paul has spoken about many opportunities for the district heating systems, and I will go through some of the proposed legislation and point to where such opportunities could be found there in the legislation. Next slide, please. So one word to the background. It started all with the European Green Deal, which was announced very quickly after the Commission took its current form, and the new commissioners were nominated. And then it was followed by the Climate Target Plan, which was published in September 2020, and which shows that at least 55% of greenhouse gas reductions by 2030 is first feasible. It will put us on the right trajectory towards climate neutrality. And it also shows that it requires more effort and contribution of all sectors of economy. You will find district heating, if you can read something from the from the graph that is there, you can find district heating supplying energy to most of the sectors mentioning in the graph. I think transport might be an exception, but you might surprise me with supplying energy to transport as well. Energy efficiency is a prerequisite, and it was in the climate target plan for all the decarbonization scenarios in the climate target plan. And you all know that heating and cooling represents about 60% of energy used in the EU, and district heating has a lot and can deliver a lot in this area. Next slide, please. So we came now to the Fit for 55 package. It contains 14 legislative proposals and major initiatives at EU level. And other initiatives and legislative proposals are still to come. So what you don't see here, for example, is the EPBD revision, which is being prepared now, and it shall be proposed by the Commission in December. It links also to the district heating through, for example, through the EPC certificates and many other items. You will see here circled the ETS system, which I will not speak about, but I will say a few words about the Renewable Energy Directive and the Energy Efficiency Directive. But before I go there, let me remind the purpose of this package, and that is to deliver a transformational change in energy in a fair, cost-efficient, and competitive way. I should also remind that no one shall be left behind, so inclusiveness is a very important part of the energy transition. We do not want to see people, consumers, citizens, communities to be left behind. And I believe that district heating is already doing a great work in that sense, and its importance will rise in this particular area. It shall lead to, or it shall cement the EU's global leadership by action and by example in the fight against climate change. And you might tell me otherwise, but I believe that Europe is really the continent of district heating. You will not find as much of it in other continents. Next slide, please. So a few words about the Renewable Energy Directive. The proposal increases the share of renewables in the entire economy from 32% to 38 to 40% binding at the EU level. And it proposes two new indicative targets. One of them is 49% indicative renewable share in buildings, and there district heating obviously plays a role. The other one is 1.1 percentage point indicative renewable share in annual increase in industry. And I know very well also from the projects included in this upgrade district heating project that district heatings deliver a lot of energy to the industry. And finally, the most important part for you in the Renewables Directive touches on the heating and cooling. And you can see there that the Commission has proposed a binding 2.1 percentage point increase in district heating. It's quite a novelty to have it binding, and it also more than doubled the original target for district heating. The Commission also extended an indicative list of measures on what can be done in the heating and cooling. Next slide, please. So now we are coming to the Energy Efficiency Directive, which is very explicit about heating and cooling, and in particular about district heating and CHPs, which are often used in district heating. We have increased the ambition from 32.5% to 9%. And if you don't believe me that this is an increase, then you are paying attention. That's the the first good point. But let me explain it. We changed the baseline. The original baseline was some modeling from 2007, which was completely outdated now. And if we would have followed the same baseline, it would be increase from 32.5 to 36% for final energy consumption and 39% for primary energy consumption. You will see that these two are going apart, and that's mainly thanks to the renewables. But we have chosen to refer to a new updated baseline, which is the baseline modeling for 2030, where obviously quite a lot of work has been done already in the past, which is reflected already in the baseline, and that's why we see now an increase to a -9% of overall ambition in energy efficiency. There are many new opportunities for district heating where it can and will help the fulfilling of the new requirements. Down on this slide, you can, for example, see in the chapter of exemplary role of public sector, there's a new Article 5, where the member states shall reduce every year by 1.7% the final energy consumption in the public sector. And I do believe that much of the district heating is in the public sector, not necessarily all of it. Public sector is defined as some of public bodies, and public bodies are defined as contracting authorities which are subject to public procurement law. So those of you who are here from a district heating company or from a municipality having a district heating company, you most probably know whether your company is subject to public procurement law. And if it is subject, it falls into the scope of this article. It doesn't mean that every company needs to decrease its consumption by 1.7%, but every company can contribute to it. And it's up to the member state to choose where these savings will be done. Next slide, please. And I would like to remind that district heating is not just about the technical equipment. It is also its customers. And I would like to remind that the current consumer rights for district heating and cooling and hot water remain. That means all the metering and billing provisions that we already had in the EED, those stay in place. And we have a few new rights which are being proposed. So the consumers, they have a right to a contract with their supplier that specifies a set of basic information. They have a right to adequate notice of any intention to modify contractual conditions, a right to a wide choice of payment methods, and those household customers who have access to prepayment system shall not be placed at a disadvantage by the prepayment system. So it's sort of all about fair trading and giving security to the customers that the service district heatings are provided are at a high level. And both final consumers, customers and final users, they shall have the right to a good standard of service and compliant handling by the suppliers, shall be offered a fair and transparent general terms and conditions in plain and unambiguous language, and shall be protected against unfair or misleading selling methods. Next slide, please. One element which I've already spoken at the beginning, which is very important for the entire Fit for 55 package, and where district heating can offer some solutions to the concerns, is the one of vulnerable consumers and energy poverty. Our energy transition must be inclusive, or it will fail. This is something that we hear very often, and therefore it's crucial to support the vulnerable consumers and the people facing energy poverty. And here is a set of measures which are in the new EED proposal, targeting vulnerable consumers, and energy poverty. I will not go through them, but I invite you to have a look at it when you are inventing your new policies, your new businesses and tactics. And this is something that would be appreciated at all the level of public administration. I just would like to mention that it was proposed that 20% of the revenues from the ETS extension should go into the SFC fund and temporarily be directed, they should be temporary direct subsidies to household and transport users. And now, next slide, please. So finally, the Commission proposed some new rules in areas like the energy audits. We have a new Article 11, which obliges companies consuming more than 100 terajoules to have an energy management system, and companies consuming more than 10 terajoules to have either an energy management system or do every 4 years an energy audit. There are special requirements for data centers. And again, I would like to make the link between data centers and possible delivery of energy to district heatings. So look for data centers in your regions, which you could connect to the district heating as a supplier of heat, because they will have a requirement to reuse the waste heat from data centers and similar installations. Finally, and possibly most interesting for today, because it concerns really the technical aspects, the heating equipment of the district heating, Articles 23 and 24, they set or they make a more stringent or more exact comprehensive assessments of this of heat needs and of excess heat or heat supply, which shall include a reach out to local and regional level. And Article 24 contains revised definitions of energy efficient district heating and cooling and efficient cogeneration to ensure a fully decarbonized heat and cooling supply. This decarbonization of district heatings is what lies very closely to our hearts. And that's why I will point out to a few legislative proposals which might be of interest for you. Next slide, please. So this is the Article 24, and I will just say what you can see in green are the new things, not the name energy efficient district heating and cooling system, that the name exists, but the definition was extended, and the definition is changing every 10 years. As from 1st of January 2026. There will be a higher proportion of high efficiency cogeneration that is required, or a combination like now of 50% of renewables, waste heat, or CHPs. But the novelty is at least 5% of the total heat production in an efficient district heating system shall come from the renewables. You will see that it's particularly this renewable share, which is increasing with every step. So in 35, it would be 20%, 45, 40%, and in 2050, it should be 60% in an efficient district heating. Why I'm so much dwelling on this efficient district heating? Why is this important? This is a condition for the state aid rules in the first place. So who wants to receive a state aid must become an efficient district heating system according to this definition. And whenever a district heating or cooling system is being built new or is being substantially refurbished, that means, for example, the network is refurbished, it shall meet the criteria which are set above as an efficient district heating system. For those who are not being refurbished and who do not receive new state aid, because I stress the new, because old state aid will continue to be paid out to assure legal certainty. So if an existing district heating is not asking for a new state aid, if it is not being substantially refurbished, it shall at least put together a plan by the 1st of January 2025, and it's a plan to increase primary energy efficiency and renewable energy in order to reach the criteria in paragraph 1, and those are the criteria of efficient district heating and cooling. And I would like to ask for the next slide. There is a reference to Annex 3 of the revised Energy Efficiency Directive. This is a very similar thing as for the district heating, but this is for CHPs. So for the cogeneration unit, high efficiency cogeneration, and 2 new conditions were added. One that concerns the carbon dioxide from cogeneration shall be less than 270 grams of CO2 per 1 kilowatt hour of energy output. That lets in mainly very efficient and modern gas CHPs. And obviously then renewable sources of energy. And when a cogeneration unit is built or substantially refurbished, member states shall ensure that there is no increase in the use of fossil fuels other than natural gas, and that any refurbishment shall not, or any new facilities shall not lead to any new heat sources in the system that use fossil fuel other than natural gas. Such a similar condition, which I didn't mention on the previous, when I was commenting on the previous slide, but it's there, is there also for the district heating. So no new capacity from fossil fuel except for natural gas. We consider natural gas as a transitional fuel, which everyone who increases the consumption of gas shall consider at the same time how they will do the gas exit, so by when and by which means they will get out of the gas. Next slide, please. So here is just a nice overview of the sectoral ambition. Most of the issues that are here on this slide I have been already speaking about. I will quickly skip it so that we have some time for questions. And the last slide, please. Or pre-last slide. This is a nice overview of different technologies and where they are used. So if you look for inspiration, you can check quickly this table. Those are district heating systems in Denmark, France, Spain, Germany, Lithuania, Italy, which are using renewable electricity, thermal storage, ambient energy from wastewater, from the air, from the sea. They're using geothermal, solar thermal, biogas, industrial heat, so many opportunities that go beyond of gas are being already used and are waiting to be embraced by as many district heatings as possible. Last slide there. Thanks. And we can see here that still more than a quarter of all sources of heat in district heating comes from coal, and a small part of it from peat. If you add to it oil, we are by about 30%. We are also by 30% in gas. We expect that to increase to displace some coal. We are at 27% with biomass, biofuels, and renewable waste. If you add to it non-renewable waste, that means mainly waste incineration, we are over a third of the fuel supply to district heating. And there on the top, you see the small ones which are slowly developing and which I would like every district heating to invite to see how they could develop those further. Geothermal, solar thermal, heat pumps, industrial excess heat. Voila. With that, we are at the end of my presentation and I'm open for any questions.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Radoš. I have questions in my role as moderator, but I also want to leave a chance for others. So maybe I'll start, and then if people have questions, please do let us know. Radoš, one of first of all, we like very much the package. Of course, there are a million small details that we have to talk about in the coming months, but the spirit of the package as it relates to district heating seems to me very positive and reasonable and thoughtful. One of the things, and I think it's from the Renewables Directive, but in the end, it doesn't really matter. One of the provisions that I find really interesting and brave, actually, of the Commission is talk about an obligation for communities, I think with a population over 50,000, to develop heat plans. And I was just wondering how much of a governance challenge that poses for the Commission, because there you're reaching down below the national level to local level and trying to influence developments there. How big is it a challenge for you to trigger behavioral changes in local communities?
Well, much of the local communities already have such plans. When we are looking, for example, on the government of mayors, on the covenant of mayors, there most of the municipalities, or I think it's even an obligation to participate in the covenant of mayors, to have a plan for energy efficiency, for renewables, for sustainable energy altogether. I personally believe that all municipalities which do have the capacity to develop such a thing should have a sustainable energy plan, a plan that encompasses all the aspects of energy, and not only for the municipal use, but also for the industry that they are planning to develop or that they already have in the municipality. For the citizens, it could encompass district heating. They should at least look at the possibility of having such a district heating. And we have seen, or we are seeing currently, that the municipalities, and not only municipalities, but regions, sometimes it's more appropriate to do it at a regional level. Municipalities and regions who do have an agency, and it might be a few people with their own budget, with their own responsibilities, and which do have, this agency then develops a sustainable energy plan. Those municipalities and regions are really steaming ahead, and they do not complain about decarbonization. They do not complain about exit from fossil fuels, because they have already foreseen it. And many of them are running way ahead of the plans that the Commission is putting on the table for the entirety of the member states. And we would like to take this good example from those regions and municipalities who already have such structures to spread it around of Europe.
Super. Thank you. Thank you very much, Radoš. I'm told by the organizers that we are out of time and need to move on to our next speaker. So if you have questions out there, please do get them to us, and I'm sure we can share them with Radoš afterwards. Thank you very much again, Radoš. And now moving on, I'd like to introduce Dominique Hutz. So Dominique is from WIP Renewables. He's a researcher, a head of unit for bioenergy and the bioeconomy, and has really worked as the coordinator of this project to make it happen. He's also very active in local politics, which is interesting given the subject matter here. And now he's going to talk us through the Upgrade DH project in some more detail. Dominique, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm just sharing my screen. Just a second. Can you confirm that you see the screen in full screen?
Yes, it's great.
Okay, very good, perfect. Okay, thank you very much, Paul, for the very kind introduction. And actually also thank you very much to Radoš for the nice overview of this nice new package. I think we all have to digest this a little bit in the coming days, weeks, and months. And as Paul said, there is many little details that make this thing happen and that need to be clarified. But in general, like, I'm very happy about this very positive political sign. So my role now here is as coordinator, together with my colleague Rita Merkner, who is supporting me, and I'm giving you a short overview on the Upgrade DH project, what we did there and what happened, what is the frameworks. I just want to mention that we're around more than 70 participants here in the conference. I'm very happy about this high number of people interested in our project. I think just one more sentence regarding the new policies. I just wanted to say it is there, and that is very positive. However, a big issue, and that is the role of the coming weeks and months, is the implementation, both at the member state level, but then at the very local level. And here, municipalities, policymakers, stakeholders are playing a crucial role. I will say a few words about that later on. So this is the content of my presentation, talking about the challenge, the Upgrade DH project. I'm talking a little bit about the people, and I have some personal remarks as a project coordinator. So just as an introduction, I think like heating needs very much energy. You see it here, considering that a household, you have space heating and water heating, and it consumes around 80% of the energy demand of a household. So it is really a lot. And even more is shown the role of heating and cooling by this number, because like about half of our energy consumption in Europe is used for heating. So it is really huge, and it also shows that a lot of impact can be achieved if we tackle this issue. So this is a rather old graph of 2017, but I think it didn't change dramatically. Around 20% of heating and cooling energy is coming from renewable energies. That's by far too less. So we should be aiming of speeding this up. And being from Germany, of course, well, this is not very encouraging. So I'm really looking forward to implement all the policy measures that were presented just before. And while this is true, the heating sector was neglected for too long, but yeah, it's going to speed up. So what is the main challenge? Heating sector is very difficult, I would say. I'm talking a lot to my neighbors, to normal people. But if we talk about how to implement 100% renewables in their own home, it is really a challenge. This especially applies, of course, to existing buildings. For new buildings, it's a little bit easier. So we need modern, renewable and efficient district heating systems, and they have a key role in the energy transition of the heating sector. And this applies to existing district heating systems, which must be upgraded, but also we need much more smaller district heating systems that are newly built, because this in the end helps again the homeowner and the consumers in implementing 100% renewable energies. So this is just a very simple scheme of a district heating system. Just what I want to say here is that each system, each district heating system is very individual. It has a certain amount of or number of connections. It has a certain temperature level. It has certain kind of complexity. So every district heating system must be treated individually. However, the measures for improving the efficiency could be similar on this or that technical aspect. And that was exactly what we did also in the upgrade DH project, is that we looked at existing district heating networks, and we tried to identify the bottlenecks and the potential of improvement. So the overall objective of the project was to improve the performance of district heating networks in Europe by supporting 8 demonstration cases for upgrading. So we defined very concrete upgrading measures and improvement opportunities, which we tried to mobilize stakeholders, the decision makers, to implement it. And we went beyond to this, so we also tried to replicate or to train and to inform other district heating systems in Europe as well. So what are we talking about? We are talking about the heat generation. So you all know the rather old-fashioned centralized systems. We talked a lot on how to integrate and to use different kinds of renewable energies. Here is wood mentioned. By the way, there was one question on the wood energy. So this is a very sensitive question. It always depends on how you do it. And there is certainly very sustainable forms of using biomass, and also not so sustainable forms. Also solar thermal integration. The role of storages, seasonal storages, for example, will be more. So we assessed this for the demo cases. But then we are also talking about the heat distribution systems. So from the old piping systems, leakages, how to change this to modern systems with much less energy losses. That was also very important. And finally, I just have a rather new picture. So this is the heat exchanger at the consumer side. So we were talking about the heat use and how to connect efficiently consumers, how the consumer's behavior could impact the efficiency of the overall system. This was an important aspect as well. So just to tell you what the project is about, I don't want to talk about different work packages and tasks and so on too much, but I think this slide shows you quite nicely how the structure is. So we investigated and defined best practice examples. We had a look on what is happening on the upgrading, both for projects and for tools. Then we went into the demonstration cases. So we made assessment and diagnosis. We developed some local action plans and assessed the pre-feasibility of the systems. We were developing some financing business plans, models, and try to initiate investments. And then, of course, we have the communication dissemination work package, which is to all the different other work packages for communicating to the outside world, so to say. And in the end, we were developing some regional and national action plans and going for European-wide replication. Just a second. So I would like to thank enormously the whole consortium who has done a great job. Just to name them, because I think it's important. These are those partners who are behind the whole project. It's Solites from Germany. They're very much focusing on solar thermal integration. Then we have the Lithuanian District Heating Association. We have Salchenko, Silumus Tinklai from Lithuania. They are operator of district heating network. We have a utility Elektroprivater from Bosnia and Herzegovina. We have the German Association for District Heating, AGFW. We have University of Zagreb. We have COWI, who were responsible for 3 demo sites in Denmark, in the Netherlands, and Poland. We have Optit from Italy, providing innovative IT solutions for district heating. Grupo Hera, utility and operator from Italy, and of course Euro Heat and Power, who is organizing this event today. So this graph shows you the sites, the case studies, and of course, like, different partners were responsible for these different case studies. And you will hear a lot more about these case studies in the panel discussion later on. So some selected results. What did we achieve in the project? We identified a lot of upgrading options. We promoted them. And I'm very proud that some measures that we identified and that we further worked on were already implemented. So this is very nice results. We have organized study tours, site visits, webinars. Important were the working groups with local stakeholders. Then we had, of course, exchange of knowledge and experiences among experts. We developed the national district heating cooling action plans for target countries, and there was the implementation of the campaign Become a DH Citizen. So just to give you an idea on the upgrading measures that we identified, here is a list of different issues, like including like measures for the heat use, but also heat distribution, and continuing with the heat production and the management. I don't want to read them all. You can all find them in a summary report, which is shown here on the website. This is public, and also a report on the business models. You can imagine that not all results are displayed because some of them were confidential, but these 2 reports are public, and I encourage everybody to have a look at them. And when it comes to technologies, well, this is a very nice graph from Euro Heat and Power. I like it very much because it shows that an important issue is the reduction of the temperature levels of district heating on the one side. On the other side, it is getting more complex. So because you integrate more different components, and so it's a huge challenge how to implement that. And we developed a handbook all together with the experts, and all these issues are included. I'm not sure whether you see me here on the camera, but the handbook is also printed. You can download it, and it is translated in several languages. I think it's a very useful material. So now talking about people, I will tell you why I want to talk about people. Just to give you an idea on what happened in the project. So this is the consortium at the kickoff meeting in Germany. That's how we started working. There was nobody was thinking about distancing, like 1.2, 1.5 meters or 2 meters. That was not needed at that time. We were in Lithuania. Also, the personal level was very important. We had some very nice exchanges. So I really made very, very good friends in the project. But we also visited some examples here in Krasachenka. We went to Denmark. We had a very nice study tour there, and also a workshop. Not to forget Bosnia-Herzegovina. Here, a nice picture where we also made some media campaign, and a film team was interviewing Anis, our partner in Bosnia-Herzegovina. And I selected this picture because it shows our project office Stavros, who was also part and always supporting us in the project. And then there was the COVID-19 home office. Everything went online. We had different meetings and even a study tour that was virtual, which worked very well. But of course, it is not the same as if we could meet all together. So this is just to tell you what we did in the project and to show you some nice pictures in terms of networking, internal networking, but also with stakeholders. Why do I say all this? Because I think you need technical solutions and good planning, but this is, I would say, rather mature and available. Of course, it will be always further developed, but very important, you need the right people. So you need people, skilled planners and workers on the ground that really can implement the upgrading in the end. I put this in yellow because in some countries and district heating companies, it is like these are there. In some there needs to be still some training perhaps. But what is very important is that you need politicians at national and EU levels that enact suitable and fast legislation. I could put that also in yellow after Rado's presentation. But like talking about the national level, I think there's a lot of need to be done here. But what is really needed is you need politicians at the local level that implement or that make the ground for the implementation of projects at local level. This is very important. So I urgently call all project partners and all the conference participants, as well as you have the knowledge on the topic, to further use the personally gained knowledge for continuously informing policymakers at any level. So please go beyond what you're doing anyhow and use the knowledge and also the money that the Commission was giving us for implementing the project to make a change also on the personal level. So that would be my wish to all consortium partners, but also to the participants here. So if possible, get involved in local politics to stimulate changes. And of course, this is not always possible for everybody. I know this, but perhaps the one or the other could make an impact here. And then I'm getting to the end of my presentation. Some personal remarks as project coordinator. It was really a pleasure to coordinate this project. It was very nice and very smoothly. And yeah, I think this was a very good project. But I think that district heating networks provide great services for consumers, as I said in the beginning, and much more work needs to be done. They must be fully carbon neutral, not today, but very fast. They should be 100% renewable. So I understood that natural gas is an energy carrier for the transition, but the aim in the end should be really like 100% renewable. And we have to keep that in mind in all decisions that the planners, that the policymakers are doing. On the other hand, there is a lot of opportunities and a huge potential. So energy efficiency gains are possible, I would say, for nearly all district heating systems. Well, this was just a note as I'm heading the unit of bioenergy and bioeconomy. There is a hot debate at the EU level on forest-based biomass, how to use that sustainably. I don't want to go into this discussion, but it is an issue. I think there's huge potential for that. I'm myself forest owner. I think biomass could or should play a significant role, but of course, only if it is managed sustainably. And finally, that's my last slide. I would like to say big thanks, first of all, of course, to the European Commission for the funding of the project, but to all project partners for the great work, but also for the friendship. Some of the partners I know since many years, so thank you very much to you all out there in the virtual world. I especially would like to thank Stavros Stamatukos, a project officer who was always very helpful. He let us go as flexible as possible, but when we needed him, he was always there and supported us. I would like to say especially thanks to Oksana for the great organization of this event now. It was a lot of work and she did a great job. Everything goes well so far. And of course, many thanks to my colleagues, Rita, Cosette, Christine, and Rainer, for all their support and contributions. So with that, I would like to thank you for your attention. Tomorrow we have our final internal project meeting. Looking forward to see the project partners there again. And I would like to hand over to Paul again. Thank you very much.
Dominique, thank you very much for that. I really enjoyed listening to it, not only because I think that projects done with European money should be so much more than just a box ticking exercise where you sort of use your funding and give people a bit of work, but where you try and accomplish something. And the passion with which you speak about this project and the people you work with, it's really wonderful. Actually, it's really quite touching, and I enjoyed listening to it a lot. Now we've got 2 minutes because we will finish this on time, but I'm going to tease you a little bit. I saw the picture at the start of your presentation. You didn't want to get into the biomass discussion, but I do. It's very important for us to be able to use biomass as part of the overall district heating bouquet, because right now it's an important part of our share of renewables, and we really need that, actually. But as you say, it needs to be sustainable. It needs to make sense. And when I ask biomass people about this, I'm often told, yeah, but this is sort of a misunderstanding. We just use scraps, residue from the forest floor, so it's all fine, which is always nice to hear. But when I saw a picture of you, there seemed to be quite large trees in the background, kind of cut and loaded onto a truck. And can you just talk to me about that, because I'm sure that it's not what it looks like, but I just wanted to flag that it's important, because it can certainly create the wrong impression. So what about that?
Yeah, for sure. Perhaps in the meantime, Oksana can put the picture again so that everybody knows why, which picture you're referring to. No, as mentioned, like I could for sure, like I could talk about this like for an hour easily, the pros and the cons, and my own thoughts about that. Well, that's a picture. I don't remember where I took this, but it's true. Like it shows the full trunks there. And I would say it really depends on various factors, how to use whole trunks, for example, for energy. It's always depends on the local context. It always depends on the money, you know. Like in Germany, we have a lot of private forest owners, small forests. So it really depends on the forest owner what he wants to do with the biomass. If he wants to sell it, I don't know, for doing like for a sawmill or for energy and so on. I think biomass is very important, even much more important than natural gas for this transition period. And of course, we should aim at minimizing the use of biomass, but I think we are far away from being ready for that. So of course, yeah, as mentioned, we should minimize it, but just another note, I'm currently exchanging my old heating system. I had an old boiler, oil boiler, so I replaced it with a logwood boiler because I have a lot of logwood, like small wood I use mainly, but I also use a heat pump. So and also solar thermal collector. So whenever possible, I try to reduce the wood, but still I use the wood, because you need this density of energy for heating. So it was just a very small comment, but
it's fine.
This discussion could be expanded. And of course, just a final remark. It depends on the level how to use it, and of course, like if it is used in big power plants, for example, or if it is used locally for heating, like this small district heating systems, or even for individual devices. So
okay, yeah. Thank you, Dominic. Thanks for the answer and for putting up with my gentle teasing. I appreciate it. Moving on, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Valdas Lukosevicius. Valdas, you'll forgive me for that. Valdas has a tremendous amount of experience in the field of district heating in Lithuania and internationally, and for the past few years has been leading the Lithuanian District Heating Association with a great deal of energy and vigor and success, I think, in cementing the role of district heating as a key feature of the Lithuanian district energy transition and the overall transition that's taking place in the country. Valdas, tell us all about it.
Thank you very much, Paul, for your introduction. It's really East European, Central European, or as we call post-plan economic countries, went very interesting transition period after Soviet Union collapse, and including all transformations in energy sectors, as well as in the district heating sector. So if you see my presentation and you hear me, I can start.
We cannot see your presentation yet.
You cannot see? Just a moment.
Valdas, if you want, I can share my screen. Oh, it works now. Thank you.
Now it works, yes?
Yes.
Now you see my presentation title, okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So hello to everyone, and I'm starting. Yes, transition period in post-plan economic countries was very, I would say, dramatical. And if we're talking about about district heating, of course, we have got a very interesting experience, which was slightly different in various countries, and we have got different results at the present time, from very collapsed district heating systems up to modernized, efficient, and well-working examples. So the first challenge, which was after Soviet Union collapse, how to save these district heating systems, because different approaches, very negative approaches, were very common, and that was very important to somehow to save these systems. And the main probably instrument or tool was regulation of disconnections, not to allow collapse of networks. And very soon introduced cost-based and predictable pricing system, which made an economical basis for district heating services. Legal regulatory laws, which were basis for the action for local political, for utilities, etc. And I would say a very important role was of independent energy regulators, who assisted very much to exclude the political influence, which was sometimes, unfortunately, negative and destructive even. So as a next step, when district heating systems were saved, everyone understood that this is the perfect energy infrastructure, which is suitable for CHP plants, for waste incinerators, introduction of renewable energy sources, etc., etc. After that, we came to the new state support instruments in many countries, like reduced VAT, investment funds, feed-in tariffs for co-generated electricity, etc., which was very helpful for district heating development in this transition period. Of course, challenges were very drastic, I would say, especially when some even complete districts of consumers especially industrial consumers, disappeared from the system, disconnected, in some cases, canceled supply of hot water, and this led to reduction of heat sales. Additionally to that, thermal renovation of buildings again reduced energy consumption, so heat sales economy was affected very much. And the next challenge was to cancel usage of fossil fuels. They were mainly imported in most countries, East European. It's mainly from Russia. Gas, heavy fuel oil or coal, or sometimes coal, of course, local, and switch to replace it by renewable ones. And district heating networks at group heat substations were mainly used for district heating, which were it was necessary to modernize them and to make with the modern solutions. So many things like mandatory introduction of heat and hot water meters, building level or apartment level were introduced, digitalization and other tasks we met. Example how heat production and heat sales reduced were dropping in Lithuania. You can see here production, sales, and it's going further because of renovation of building, because of energy saving means, and this is new challenge which we must overtake somehow. But what was really important, how to promote by the states, by the municipalities to switch as soon as possible from fossil fuels to mainly local renewable energy sources. So many instruments, regulatory instruments, legal instruments, economical promotions were applied in many countries. Most of them are typical, like in the beginning it was feed-in tariffs for cogenerated clean electricity, increased or additional return on investment into the renewable energy sources, obligation to buy heat from external heat producers. That was a possibility for private investors to build external heat sources, boiler plants, CHP plants, etc., etc. Of course, when we entered, most of these countries entered the European Union, there was a new possibility to save and sold carbon allowances. So it was a nice fund investment for rehabilitation of district heating systems. And new EU structural and national subsidies funds provided subsidies for modernization of district heating systems, including introduction of renewable energy sources. Here is an example in Lithuania, how many capacities in megawatts were built in different years. And you can see when the last decade was extremely productive, when we introduced many capacities, many boilers for biomass mainly. And what is interesting, to speed up this process, we have built very good conditions for external investors. So we have part of boilers which operated by the private, or we call external heat producers, and green ones is built and operated by district heating utilities, companies, operators. So mainly products, boilers were built mainly by the national manufacturers. So it was again advantage for national economy to develop new industries, new contracting companies, new construction companies, which were involved in this business, and that was good for national economy. You can see here how we changed the natural gas. In the beginning of the transition period, it was even heavy fuel oil. It disappeared almost completely, but now natural gas left only 90%, even less, and biomass reached 75%. Additional to, if we add to this city waste energy, so we have now 80% of let's say local fuels, and fossil fuels disappear. CO2 reduction also dramatically reduced by several times, and that was extremely important for country, for companies, for cities. And Krasachenka is a typical district heating small company, which also demonstrated how useful new biomass boiler, which replaced all the gas firing boilers, and using state support and other promotions of the regulatory promotions of the which were available for replacement of fossil fuels to biomass. Additional to that, in large free cities were built city waste firing incinerating plants, CHP plants, which now provide heat and electricity for Vilnius, Kaunas, and Klaipėda. And so instead of waste going to the landfill, now they are burnt in this plant and produce the heat, which is delivered to the cities. And this very, very good solution and practical solutions at the present time. We'll see what will happen in the future, but at the present time, there is no other chance, possibility. So this waste are very good energy source. Part of it's considered as renewable, some part as non-renewable, but anyway, economical effect is significant. Because of different ownership of boiler plants, CHP plants, now we have dealing with competition model. Of course, this is probably important issue for other countries also, because to adjust interest, to adjust technological operation of all these small plants in big district heating systems is rather big challenge. So single pool buyer, bilateral contracts, auctions, or other methods how to organize heat production market is now on the on our daily discussions, because we still haven't found good method. Because we analyzed very well Danish case where Copenhagen area used last some kind of dispatch center. In Lithuania, we have now national operator energy exchange bulk pool, which organized heat production auctions, monthly auctions in each city where independent heat producers available. So it's a really interesting method, but still we need some changes, because energy heat prices dropped very much after we introduced the system. Supply of biomass, supply of heat now is very transparent, but it stops further investment. So again, new challenges for further development of district heating systems occur. Of course, benefit of replacement of gas by biomass is extremely was useful and considered in the country as a best probably case or example of usage EU funds, structural funds mainly, when we solved many problems at the same time. Starting from energy independence, fulfillment of international obligations. We have now excess of carbon allowances, which are sold to other countries. This is the significant macroeconomical and fiscal effect. Development of rural regions which supply biomass from local forest, residual, of course, residual forest, forest industry and wood industry provide us a lot of residuals for which use for fuel, for chips production, etc., etc. So it's again for benefit for local manufacturers, etc., etc. And what is important that all district heat in Lithuania, in fact, from all systems, is suitable for class A++ buildings. So if in the past, if they were looking for alternative heat sources like heat pumps, solar collectors, etc., so now all these cities, all these buildings are connected to district heating systems usually, and buy heat from our system. So it's again very good additional benefit for us. Also expansion of or connection of new consumers. This change from gas to biomass reduced very much district heating prices. It's again attractive for for new consumers, and they now become more and more active to connect to district heating sector systems.
Valdas, hi, it's Paul. I'm sorry, I'm just being told by the organizers, I need to ask you to wrap up in 1 minute if you can. And then there'll be a virtual tour of the Vilnius CHP plant later, and discussions can continue during the networking session.
Okay, I have 1 minute more, yes, okay.
Yeah, super, thank you.
Networks, of course, were reduced temperatures, they were optimized, replaced central or drop heat substations by individual in the buildings, optimization of networks. This is the main two tools probably which are common in many countries, which assisted to increase efficiency. Now, in fact, all energy district heating systems considered as energy efficient according to Energy Efficiency Directive. You can see statistics of replacement of pipelines, which are significant. Heat losses reduced to these changes, and many new introduction of new technologies for increasement of reliability of district heating networks, which are underway in some in using also different experience from other countries. But the biggest problem, biggest challenge now is the buildings, which renovated slowly, and quality of heating is not perfect in many cases. You can see these examples where part of a building is dark, too cold, and some part overheated. So renovation of buildings is the main question for district heating companies, for the municipalities, for state, because it costs negative approach to district heating in general, so that we should overtake this. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm ready if you have any questions.
Thanks very much, Valdas. As far as I can see, I need to leave the questions for the networking session because we're tight for time. But thank you very much, and really congratulations on what you guys have achieved in Lithuania these last years. It's nothing short of miraculous, and I hope it can inspire people in other countries to know that this transition really can happen. Now, moving on to Italy, I'd like to introduce Lorenzo Spadoni. Lorenzo is an old friend and really a leading actor in district heating in Italy. He's here representing the Italian Association of District Heating today, but on a personal level, he himself has really done a lot to move things forward these last years. Lorenzo, over to you.
Thank you, Paul, for the beautiful introduction. I would like to share my screen. I hope you can see it. Can you
Perfect.
see my screen? Okay.
We can.
Okay. Just 2 words about AIRO. I represent AIRO, which is the Italian Association of District Heating. We are a no-profit organization founded in 1982. So next year will be 40 years since our foundation. We have a mission of promoting DHC and the culture of innovation, energy efficiency, and renewable energy. Our members are all the community of district heating and cooling in Italy, utilities, industrial companies, university, municipalities, and also common people who are interested in the matter. Few words about the today's situation of district heating in Italy. You can see in the map where the networks are located. We are talking of more than 400 networks. Most of them are medium and small size networks, but we have also 3 big cities, Torino, Milano, and Brescia, with well-developed systems. And we represent today 3%, so not so much, but we are concentrated especially in the north part of the nation. And but the most important figure is that today we contribute to climate to the climate contrast with 1.7 million tons of CO2 emissions avoided every year by means of our district heating systems. You can see here the historical growth of district heating in Italy, starting in 72, 50 years ago, up to today. The recent growth is a reason of concern for us. I mean that if you look on the right, there is a zoom on the last 5 years. And as you can see, the increase is, the pace of growth is slowing down. So the increase of the systems year by year is less and less. No new networks have been created during these years, and the growth is only by extension of existing networks. The question is why? If you read this situation, this fact, together with the last regulation development, which have an impact on our sector, one possible answer is that there is a lack of support. You can see that, for example, in 2014, the measure of support of efficient DHC that was in 2015 the white certificate mechanism, which was the support scheme for DHC projects, a market-like mechanism, was modified and no more effective in supporting DHC developments, and this was not substituted by anything. In 2017, we had a new law which established to reintroduce white certificate for CHP projects combined to DHC networks, but the implementation of this law is missing so far. And in 2020 was introduced a new decree which introduced the so-called super bonus mechanism for building retrofitting, so for energy efficiency in the buildings. But DHC is not included in this super bonus mechanism. Even this super bonus includes some fossil fuel, only fossil fuel devices like gas condensing boilers. So this is a very strange and not a coherent legislation that we faced in the last years. So a question arises. The question is if is still there a future for DHC in Italy? And so we try to answer to this question. And so AIRO and Utilitalia is the association of all the most important multi-utility company in Italy. AIRO and Utilitalia jointly promoted the study to assess the growth potential of DHC in Italy. The focus of the study is on last generation systems, so this means waste heat, this means renewable heat, and the study was jointly issued by Polytechnic of Milan and Polytechnic of Turin, which are two of the most important technical universities in Italy, whose scientific independence is unanimously recognized by all. And the results of the study were presented during the Upgrade DH workshop on October 2020 for the first time. The results are quite impressive. First of all, the study calculated the heat demand and the available renewable and waste heat, which is available to fit this demand. The result is that the total Italian heat demands amounts to more than 300 terawatt-hour, and 44% of this demand could be technically satisfied by a district heating system. And the other point is that there is a huge amount of wasted availability, which is more than 100 terawatt-hour, 121 terawatt-hour. This is the wasted availability, to which we have to add also biomass and geothermal heat availability. At this point, the second step of the study was to match the demand side to the supply side, means the availability of renewable heat and waste with the demand. So introducing also some economical criteria. And the result is that we have a potential which can technically, but also economically satisfied by district heating, which amount to 38 terawatt-hour, which is 420% more than the today dimension of the system. So 4 times, we can increase 4 times. This could be avoid 5.7 million tons per year of CO2 emission. And if we fit this potential, we can reduce also the pollution in our cities, and the effect is equivalent to shut down more than 4 million cars. So this is in summary the result. The study could be downloaded by our website, and you can see in the slide the reference if you are interested in this. And also the data from the field. So the study, of course, is a modelization, is a simulation, but the data from the field also confirms that district heating has a huge impact on the air quality in our cities. This is the example of the city of Turin. The city of Turin has a very wide spread district heating system, and the pollution in the city due to the dust pollution in the city is much less than in the surrounding, due to the benefit of the district heating system. This is a real data and not a modelization, not a model. So we have a potential, and what does we need to make this potential real? One good news comes from the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. Our plan has 6 tasks, and most of them are crossed by DHC. And the recovery plan provides 200 million euro specific for DHC projects, and the definition of the selection criteria for this is ongoing. Of course, is a very good news, but this is not enough to make all the potential real. Our potential is much more. So we can thank our government, but we need something more. We need to understand, first of all, that the DHC is a capital-intensive sector, and that the huge investments are needed to implement the system. At the investors need consistent rules, so rules that are consistent with the goals of the decarbonization, with energy efficiency goals, and to the better use of the resources goals. Inconsistent rules like the super bonus mechanism I told before produce market distortions and stop block the investments in this sector. We need stable rules. The investment payback times are long, and the rules also has to be maintained in the long term, and also some support scheme should be implemented. There is a lack, as I told before, of support scheme for efficient DHC in this moment. And then we need planning. DHC must be included in a stable way in all the planning instruments and national and local level. And this is not so common in this moment. So what can we do? We as a district heating association has issued to government and to the National Agency for Energy Efficiency, the DHC, a proposal of a new support scheme for efficient DHC based on a new application of a white certificate mechanism. And we are now ongoing with a follow-up action with policymakers, and we hope to obtain some results in the near future. But we are also developing a new study that, starting from the results of the polytechnical study, will address some other issues on national basis. Will address benefits related to DHC growth. What could be the role of DHC in the national energy strategy? Which are the regulatory barriers that cannot allow us to use the potential that we have, and of course we will make some proposal to overcome these barriers. One proposal was already issued to the government, as I told before. So we want to be proactive in this process, because we want to address our policymakers regarding the importance of this potential, and the importance that the use of this potential can have in the national energy strategy, and in reaching the goals of decarbonization that Italy has, and so this is what we will do in the end of this. The goal is to have this study to the end of this year and to present it in the first quarter of next year, 2022, in a national event that we would like to organize, also to celebrate the 40 years from our foundation. And I will extend to you, to all of you, the invitation as soon as the organization will reach a proper point. So that's all for the moment, and thank you to all of you, and I am open to discussion and questions.
Thank you very much, Lorenzo. Do we have a quick question from the audience? I mean, otherwise I can ask Lorenzo, how optimistic are you? I mean, I know there's been a change of government, which seems to have brightened the mood a little bit. If we're sitting here together 10 years from now, will we be able to reflect on the decade in which district heating really took off? How are you feeling at the moment?
I think that we can have, in this moment, we can have a good moment, because we had recently a change in our government. Previous governments was not so in favor of district heating. New government is more pragmatic, and the first signal is 200 million euro in the national recovery plan. I said it's not enough, but it is an important signal. And now we want to provide more facts to support our reason, and to support a pragmatic approach to this question, to this issue.
Great. Thank you very much, Lorenzo, for your remarks. And thank you, everybody, for being with us this morning. It's been intense, but entertaining, I hope. I've enjoyed listening to the speakers. You are now entitled to a 10-minute coffee break. So if we could have everybody back here by 11:45, at which point another moderator is kindly going to take over. So just from me, thanks very much for being here, and hope you enjoy the rest of the day. All the best.
Hello to all the participants of our Upgrade DH workshop. I hope all of you could grab your coffee and enjoyed it. So let's continue. Time is very limited. I would like to present the next speaker, Mr. Matteo Pozzi, CEO of Optit. He was also recently elected as vice chair of DHC Plus, which is the Technology, Innovation and Knowledge Hub of Euroheat and Power. And he is also Upgrade DH project partner. We are very glad to have him here today in our workshop. And he also made a perfect work package lead on local action plans and feasibility of retrofitting measures. So we have an expert here. Matteo, the floor is yours for 15 minutes, and Matteo will speak about overview of Upgrade DH solutions. Let's stick to the timeline, Matteo. I will let you know in case the presentation is getting too long. So the floor is yours. Please.
I hope that you can already see my screen.
Yes.
I used some of your introduction, nice introduction by the way. I'm actually vice chair in DHC Plus, but yeah, I thank you for the privilege of providing you with an overview of what actually was analyzed and designed during the project, and to some extent also done. So maybe as an overview, you know that there were, Dominique already introduced the fact that there were a number of demonstration cases, and we looked at solutions throughout the value chain. And you can see how deep and widespread the collaboration was amongst different partners. It is obvious to notice that in every case, we looked at the generation side with a particular care, because of course the energy mix is at very close to the, I mean, it's a very clear focus for everyone. And in fact, to some extent, going towards the consumer is more complicated and requires a higher level of maturity. But I must say that we were really able to touch the core elements in all the demo cases that we had the privilege to work with. Let me also say that there was a very interesting and fruitful collaboration amongst the consortium partners, meaning the contribution that the technical and somehow also the institution, because GFW actually worked and got their hands dirty to make sure that things could happen. I'll make a general statement. We were looking for actionable improvement measures, which means that we did not go into rocket science, but we wanted something that could actually be considered as something to be actually implemented in the short time frame. This is why looking at let me check. Okay, yeah. The measures that I'm going to mention to you will not dig into very advanced and fancy-looking elements, but are the available technologies that can really be employed to improve practically the performance of district heating networks. Starting with generation, let's say we pragmatically dig into at least three big fields. One is the use of digital tools, analytics, data insight to improve the performance. We simulated and actually analyzed the opportunity to optimize the scheduling of big power plants in Tuzla and in Italy, and with very interesting and positive impacts on the performance. This is actually linked very often to more infrastructural and capital investments, and the key measure that was actually measures that were actually deep dived were two elements that increase the flexibility of the system, decoupling production and consumption, and actually allowing a huge enhancement in the capacity of district heating systems to deliver heat at low price and with a lower impact at environmental level. This goes on in the heat storage direction on one side and heat pumps on the other side. As I said, this is not new to anyone, but we did analyze and study and actually implement these measures, and the benefits are demonstrable. And of course, transition to renewable sources. There has been already some speaking about biomass, but we also looked at some other techniques like solar thermal in various geographies, as you can see, from the Netherlands to Lithuania to Bosnia, and with a very interesting insight from this analysis. This was on the generation side. We also looked at distribution. The project supported the analysis of actual migration towards lower temperature technologies. So in fact, even though, I mean, we are collectively moving towards 4DH, and in particular in Denmark, there was a very important study done by COWI on the new piping for lower temperature. And ourselves and COWI leveraged on separate, but to some extent analogous digital tools, supported a vast number of demo cases looking at thermal hydraulic simulation, scenario analysis, hydraulic analysis, in order to study two typical problems that existing networks have, which are on the one side how to improve the performance, avoid bottlenecks, ensure that the system actually works perfectly, and on the other side, they're working towards the capital investment improvement, both in terms of refurbishments and expansions. And a number of tools were used, opted ones and terms by COWI, with again very interesting insight with respect to the demo cases. Finally, the last bit was the consumer and the final user. I think that there were very interesting experiences of consumer engagement in Bosnia. I believe the key point was the transition from surface billing to meter-based billing, which seems trivial, but this is still the reality in a very wide area of Eastern countries, and all the technical and non-technical issues of actually getting such a big shift in culture around heating was explored to its fine details and is actually documented in the project's documentation. Another very interesting issue was discussed in the case of the Stadtwerke Marburg in Germany, where the local university was a very preeminent consumer, and being able to align policies on the consumption of heat actually managed to improve the system as a whole. A very interesting example of engagement. As I said, there were also very clear actions on the substations in order to increase the density of the substation, and which everyone in the industry knows is one of the big issues, both on the field and to some extent also trying to leverage on the wider availability of data and analytics to actually improve system performance using this analytics. So the collective impact of all these actions was quite impressive. We had important targets, and all of these targets were actually improved. I must say that, as Dominique said, tomorrow we are having the last internal meetings, and we are getting an update on the actual figures and maybe the impacts from replication cases as well as the standard demo cases. And I could say that even though I'm showing you the last official data, this will be actually improved by the end of the project, even though the end of the project is in 15 days from now. So very important impacts, looking at existing systems and only looking at performance. As Dominique showed, we did not only look at this from a technical side, but also across the whole decision-making spectrum. And of course, the payback time and the way to remunerate and actually make it sustainable was a big issue. And I would say that the direct experience in the project showed how digital interventions were really instrumental to provide almost immediate benefit with very, very short payback times. Also, the capacity to decrease losses thanks to lower temperature and new pipings was amazingly sustainable. Of course, going towards the higher investment costs, the paybacks were a bit longer, but I would say definitely very, very interesting in all the cases of flexibility enhancement, heat pumps and heat storage. The refurbishment is always very costly, but yet it showed that compared to the life cycle of the assets, it makes a lot of sense. Within this project, some of the analysis on the transition to renewable system was a bit longer in terms of paybacks, but we know that the technology and the market conditions are changing very rapidly in this field. So we are actually very confident that this also is something that is worth analyzing and actually pushing as much as possible. So, well, of course, I'm particularly happy that the use of digitalization as a support to performance enhancement has proved that again to be one of the big leverage in the hands of district heating utilities. And I will be, of course, very happy to discuss this in more details with any interested party. Let me just quickly go to the conclusions. I think we could really touch with our hands and looking from different perspectives, from academic to professional to industrial parties, that whenever you look into any system, there are low-hanging fruits that can improve the performance. And by employment of well-structured improvement strategies, the benefits can be huge, both on the financial and environmental side. I believe that Upgrade DH enlarges still more the availability to general interested parties to be inspired towards upgrading the system, because, and this is something I touch with my hands, thank also to the work done with Airo and Lorenzo in the big congress in Italy. It takes a lot of time to move the system, and having a district heating utility already in place with the capacity to have already climbed the first step of acceptance of district heating in a community actually makes the upgrading of district heating systems one of the big leverage towards the transition in this industry. We are now networking actively with other projects and business communities, because this needs to be really brought up to bring the benefits that we demonstrated. I would stop here, and I think I'm more or less in.
Thank you, Matteo. Very nice presentation. I'm just checking if we have any questions. I cannot see any, but then I have one question for you, because we have 1 minute left, and then we proceed with our nice panel. You know, in our final conferences, we always have a couple of delegates from the European Commission. And what would be your appeal to them and your big wish after end of this project? We heard about Italy, that stable framework is needed, investment payback is long, and so on. Just shortly, in half a minute, what would be your message to the Commission and your wish list? So that we can proceed with new ideas. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I have a very, very clear message. I think the EU has can have a lot of influence to make sure that the national and regional frameworks for district heating development can actually be put in place. So I believe that anything that helps nations and local partners engage into district heating without having to move around the red tape or the barriers that sometimes are still present is very welcome. I think we're going in the right direction. I'm not only speaking about incentives, I'm speaking about regulation. I'm speaking about the clear message that this technology is and has a big part in the transition that we are dealing with. I believe that making this very clear will help all the national communities, the local associations to actually have a higher impact and actually achieve the local measurements at a regulatory and political level that need to happen so that players in the industry can actually do the job, which is developing systems, efficient systems, and increase the share of efficient and sustainable district heating.
Thank you a lot. Matteo, once again, thank you to you and to Opti team, really contributing significantly to our project. And now I think we can continue with our nice panel. We have half an hour for our panel discussion. So let's try to stick to the timeline. I will try to make sure that we really do not use too much time and continue further afterwards with other speakers. So I would like to introduce now our three panelists. It's Mr. Anes Kasagic, Head of Strategic Development and EPI in Bosnia-Herzegovina. He leads and coordinates all the activities related to energy management system in Elektroprivreda. And he specialized in energy process and environmental engineering. And he is also an Upgrade DH project partner responsible for the demo case in Tuzla in Bosnia-Herzegovina. So welcome, Anes, to the panel. I will continue also with the introduction of our next panelist, Mr. Thomas Andreas Ostegardt, who is a market director at COVI. He is also an Upgrade DH project partner, and COVI made detailed feasibility analysis of selected demo cases in Poland, Krasachenka, and the Netherlands, Purmerend, and Denmark, Middelfart. As well as guided the partners in the analysis of their demo cases. Thank you a lot, Thomas, for joining the panel. And our third panelist is Mr. Michael Kubler, a research associate at Solites in Germany. He joined Solites in 2020 after studying mechanical engineering, and his focus is on market introduction of solar district heating. In Upgrade project, they were also work package leader on assessment and diagnosis of demo cases. So let's start the panel with a short statements, which will be done by each speaker. And I would like to invite Anas Kasagic to present shortly about success stories from demo cases, Tuzla, Bosnia-Herzegovina. Please, the floor is yours, Anes. Anes, can you hear us?
Yes.
Ah, yeah. Thank you. We cannot see full view of the slide.
Okay.
Maybe we could ask Oksana to share. Maybe this would work better. Yes, now we can see the full slide. So Anes, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rita.
5 minutes. Thank you.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can see you. We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rita, for these nice introductory words. My name is Andreas. I'm coming from power utility of Elektroprivreda of Bosnia and Herzegovina, one of the partners on the upgrade district heating project. I'm going to shortly present you some lines about upgrading measures for Tuzla district heating system. This district heating system is one of the largest in the country, 220 megawatts of thermal energy installed. It is supplied by heat from CHP Tuzla, operated by our company, Elektroprivreda Power Utility. The heat is distributed and supplied to the final consumers by distribution utility of the city, which is actually in ownership of the city of Tuzla. Before we started and became a part of this project, actually we already had a core local team for improvements of this district heating system, consisted from the members from distribution utility of Tuzla and the CHP Tuzla, which working together for improvements of this system. And for purpose of this project of upgrade district heating, we extended this core team with the members of our strategic development department, with the member from city council, then the representative of consumers in Tuzla city, and also we involved the representative of buildings managers in Tuzla city. A part of that, the local working group cooperated with the Thermal Engineers Association in Bosnia and Herzegovina and Association of District Heating Companies in Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina to get some wider picture of needs for improvements of existing district heating networks. Also, I would like to emphasize that we benefited a lot from cooperation with experts from project partners from abroad within this project. In first row, it is AGFV, Solites, and Optit. We even before start of the upgrade district heating project in 2018, we in a long period from 2010 and 2017 actually implemented some improvements measures for our district heating system. So majority of the old heat exchangers in thermal substations were replaced by a new one. Then also majority of distribution pumps were replaced by electronic pumps. Also distribution pipe networks were replaced, while we also introduced SCADA and Thermis in our distribution utility. So distribution network was almost fully digitalized, that enabled different online analysis for optimization of the operation, but also some offline analysis by different what-if scenarios for defining some optimized measures for further improvements of the distribution network. Then within this project of upgrade district heating, we together with our partners developed some further measures for upgrading the system. One set of the measures were actually measures to resolve some hydraulic issues and to improve energy efficiency. For example, one of the measures was upgrade the main pipeline, then replacement of the existing main network pump by new frequency regulated main network pumps, and separately for each district heating system, because our CHP plant Tuzla supplied along Tuzla city, also Lukavac city, and we prepared another project of district heating system in Živinice city, which is going to be supplied from CHP Tuzla. Then we also developed the optimization model of operation of 2 cogeneration units in CHP with integration of thermal storage.
Sorry, Hannes, could you please wrap up because it's 10 after 12?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. A part of that, we also developed some integration of renewable energy models, solar thermal, biomass co-firing, and also started to analyze introduction of deep geothermal. So, yeah, this is the final slide, which actually shows what we already have implemented during the duration of the upgrade district heating project. So we installed temperature limiters to manage the temperature in the distribution system, replaced another 16 distribution pumps. Also, we launched the conversion of out unit 6 into cogeneration unit, and also started with the biomass co-firing project on unit 6 in our CHP tools. So that would be all.
Thank you, Hannes. I think it's very interesting, and let's hope for a couple of minutes after all statements. I see one question in the chat. It's about a question to panelists, to all. But let's start now with you. Have you discussed the role of strategic planning at local and municipal level in the project? And do you have some good practice examples? Just very briefly, half a minute reply. Thank you.
Yes, actually, our plans is continue with the energy transition of both power and the heat part of the system. And regarding the proposed upgrade district heating measures developed in the context of implementation, we already are in the talk with the representative of the city and distribution utility to put those measures in our short-term and mid-term plans in order to launch the realization of those projects. And we I dare say, fully supported with the city representative. It is important because of harmonization of the spatial plans, for example, in the area of Tuzla city for development and realization of some of the projects.
Thank you, Hannes, a lot. Let's hope that we will have in the end a couple of minutes for some questions. Now, let's proceed with our second panelist from Denmark, and he will speak about cooperation with follower cases, Næstved in Denmark. Please, the floor is yours, and please try to be short so that we can also ask a couple of questions. Thank you a lot. Thomas, the floor is yours.
All right, I'll share my screen with you. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, here. Yes, thank you for the opportunity to tell a little about this cooperation with a follower case, Næstved Fjernvarme in Denmark, which was a follower case to the project in Middelfart Fjernvarme. They are not situated that far away, and they knew each other up front. So, yeah. All we wanted to find out, that was something about, the temperature loss per meter of a branch pipe. And this is actually, not a simple question to answer. And we decided to do some more specific to find out how to do it. And one of the things that we knew, that was that we knew the temperature of the district heating network because we had a real-time model running. And we also knew something about the temperatures and the flow in the branch pipe because we had an electronic meter, Kampstock meter, that we could connect to and a database with metadata. So from TherMIS, we knew what the temperature was at the network end, and from the meter, we knew what the temperature was in the house. So could it be that difficult? Of course, there was something that we needed to know, something about Earth's temperature, branch pipe lengths, and so on. But we started out and we finalized it, and we actually did it. And we did it first in Middelfart, and then we did it in Næstved because we had better data there. So, and some say district heating is simple, it's just hot water in tubes. And I can then say, okay, what about finding the bad branch pipes in a network with 15 or 20 or even 60,000 connection? Is that easy? And I guess all of you know that it's not easy. So what we did was we thought about what are we going to do? We're going to collect a lot of data. So we collected the GIS line registration, and we used that to build a model. And that model was made into a TherMIS real-time model by connecting to the SCADA system in the district heating network. And further on, we added all the remotely read meters. They were read every hour, all year round, and they were all put into a large database. So we could get hold of them also. And of course, we needed something like the Earth's temperatures because they are rather crucial when you make the calculations. And also we needed somewhere to store all the data. So we actually made a data warehouse for it. And we also had to know which customers we were talking about. So we also integrated all the customer data. So, and then we had to have some weather forecasts so we knew when the weather was stable and the temperatures was so that we would like to have it. So when that was put into it, a final question came up, that was data security. We had to be aware of that there are bad guys out there, and we had to do a lot about security. What we did when we had all this, we put it into the big pot and we boiled it for many days, and we collected data, and that was millions and millions of data that was collected and analyzed and so on. And in the end, it was actually what we did was digitalization. So, and we finally said, okay, this digitalization, has it brought us somewhere? And we must say, yeah, it did. So the lessons we learned, things get better when we do it the second time. Digitalization works if you do it the right way. And district heating is more than hot water in tubes. So this was actually my very short presentation. I hope I didn't take more than 5 minutes. So I wish to finalize this presentation with a special thanks to Jesper Skov and to Jens Andersen, who is the directors of these two district heating networks. And without their support, we have never done it. So thank you, Jens and Jesper. So, and I will also thank you for your attention to this presentation. And this was the end of my presentation. So back to you, Rita.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas, a lot. I think we can allow and afford us one question. How do you see digitalization helping district heating in the future? You mentioned it, it is very important. Maybe also here this question, that's why it comes. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say it's a very good question, and that's the kind of answer you give when you don't know what to say, actually. But one of the things is that there are great difference in the way digitalization is in different countries in Europe. Even if you look at two neighboring countries like Germany and Denmark, and just a funny example could be, for example, in Germany, telefax is still used for a lot of communication. And a lot of communication goes over the telefaxes in Germany. But in Denmark, I don't think you find any telefaxes today. We left the technology and we are now using emails. So, and that's actually what we would call a digitized or a digitalized telefax. Well, but what we did in the project was actually to pool a lot of data and make them work for us. And everything was actually at hand for us. We just had to figure out how to put them together and then make the code. And then we had a working solution. Use some existing data in a new way suddenly can make other things possible. And that is not only about doing something more efficiently, it's also about doing things the right way. And do you know why we actually wanted to do this project, Rita?
Please.
Yeah, so you see, we live in Denmark, and in the town I live in, there is a company called Affaldvarme, and it's a district heating company for Aarhus. And it's renovating pipelines every year for a lot of money. And I guess the estimate is that the company approximately uses 3 million euros each year for renovation of branch pipes, because they have approximately 65,000 of them. So they have to renovate, or else they would end up with a large amount of pipelines to be renovated. But what if they could pin those pipelines that really, branch pipes that really needed to be renovated? That would be smart. And that was our driving, motivation for this project. So, yeah. So, other questions, maybe?
I think we put a point here. Thank you a lot. And then let's see if we still have at the end of the panel to touch upon the role of strategic planning at a local municipal level.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you a lot. Let's continue. We have 10 minutes left. And I would like now to invite our panelist, Michael Kubler, to shortly speak about best practice across Europe, best practice project, an example of large solar thermal. Please, Michael, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction, and hello everybody from Stuttgart. I hope you can see the presentation. Since we didn't have a demonstration or a follower case, we were responsible for a work package. I'm going to talk about one of our main topics here at Solitas, which is large-scale solar thermal applications. First of all, I'm going to give a quick overview of the overall situation in Europe. Then I'm going to give some key points what the technology can offer. And if there is time left, I'm going to show some best practice examples or some examples on different scales what can be achieved. So let's first have a quick look at the development or the situation. In this graph, we can see the annually built number of plants in Europe and the rest of the world as the bars. And we can see the accumulated area, collector area as the blue areas. This graph focuses on large-scale systems above 350 kilowatts and more than 500 square meters of collector area. There is roughly 470 plants in the statistic, but it focuses on district heating and large-scale applications in the building sector. There is a third sector for large-scale solar applications, which is solar heat in industrial processes, which is not included here. But compared to solar district heating, it's also insignificant by area, because as you can see, there's roughly 2.5 million square meters of collector area in the district heating and building sector. Out of these 470 plants in this statistic, roughly 300 are in Europe, and out of these, again, roughly 240 or even more are solar district heating. So if we look at the solar district heating part of it, it's a mature technology in Europe, and we have a market for it. It's available on very different scales, from 500 square meters up to 150,000 square meters. Powers of up to 100 megawatts are achieved in Europe. Silky in Denmark has a nominal power of 100 megawatts. In combination with multifunctional heat storages, it's possible to achieve solar fractions of up to 50%. And because of new climate legislations on national and EU level, we have a growing demand for renewable energy sources, which of course applies to solar thermal as well. We also have a growing interest in the Upgrade DH project. We did some consultancy on the topic in 2 cases in Tuzla, which Anna spoke for, and in Krasachenka, which I think was also mentioned before. What the technology can offer is it's completely emission-free and 100% renewable. Earlier, we quickly touched on the topic of biomass and the problems that could come with this. We could also talk about heat pumps, that you need the right power mix for them or something. This discussion doesn't need to happen with solar thermal. It is completely renewable. There's a high availability for the technology. You are not limited by ground conditions like geothermal or something. However, there's a need for areas because, of course, heat needs to be close to the consumer. So there's always a bit of a struggle for areas. What's interesting from the operational point of view is that you can achieve stable heat costs for the entire runtime of your project. In Germany, we speak about 30 euros with funding, 50 euros per megawatt hour without funding. And lastly, to show you some examples what can be achieved with it, on the left side here we can see Ludwigsburg, which is an urban district heating system. Here, 15,000 square meters of collector area were introduced into the system to complement a wood-based power plant and to cover the summer load with a solar fraction of roughly 10% and only a buffer storage for short-term storage. The other system that's interesting that shows kind of the scale that we are talking about is a rural district heating system in Silky, Dronninglund in Denmark. It's a village with roughly 3,500 inhabitants, but with roughly 38,000 square meters of collector area and big multifunctional heat storage. We are talking about a solar fraction of roughly 40% in this system. So these examples sort of show what can be done with solar district heating, the scales that we are talking about, and I think because of these, in the shortness of time, I think shows very well what can be done. And with this, thank you very much for your attention, and back to you, Rita.
Thank you, Michael. Very interesting. I have a question. What are actually the obstacles for large solar thermal projects? And how replication potential of such projects in Europe could be improved? Maybe you have a couple of key messages for our participants. Thank you.
One of the biggest obstacles for large-scale solar thermal, which is also the case for geothermal and other technologies, is of course the high investment costs and the runtimes of 20 to 25 years and large payback times. But as I said, we have very low operational costs on the other hand, which kind of is a positive on this front. Another thing that I touched upon is the lack of areas. We have a huge, in Germany, we oftentimes have huge problems to identify suitable areas because there's, of course, other uses for these areas. In some cases, the problems are the state of knowledge about the technology. It's not included in initial planning. The data that is needed to simulate such systems isn't available. From a technical point of view, it could be possible that there's a problem with the temperatures in your system. You need suitable flow temperatures for these applications, and there's a couple of problems, but they can all be, I think, be worked against. Replication can be improved by lowering the financial risk. I think we could do a project in stages and get familiar with the technology, minimize the financial risk for each stage. Using funding schemes or pushing for funding schemes could greatly help lower the financial impact of the project. What's important about funding schemes, if they are introduced or if they are talked about, is that they should be neutral for different technologies. What we sometimes have is that, for example, only heat pumps are funded or solar thermal is excluded for some reason. And the last thing is that you could look at the benefits and talk about the positives and have networking about these systems and replicate the knowledge and have knowledge transfer like this project here or this. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you a lot, Michael. I think all the issues mentioned by our panelists are very important. On the other hand, we have progress, we have future to come, and improvements will happen. On the other hand, of course, we need to talk about digitalization, about involving people to make really the transition to happen. In a useful way, in a good way also for local people on municipal level. So of course here the role of strategic planning is important. I think that the organizer will allow us to have 2 additional minutes just to mention what would be here your experience. Can you share any good example? Because this was also the question posed by the audience. I think we should have the opportunity just for a couple of sentences. In addition, Agnes already talked about it, how it was in their case. So maybe also Thomas and Michael, do you have any ideas to share also about this question? Thank you a lot. What is your experience about strategic planning at local municipal level? And let's say, what could our participants hear from you about your experience, or maybe any tip in short? Thank you.
Would you like to start, or should I? So
yes, Michael, please.
Sorry. From our point of view, of course, strategic planning is very important. Here in Baden-Württemberg, we have actually introduced compulsory heat planning for cities and towns. So the importance of strategic planning is also known in the political sphere, so to say. And we also do have projects where we want to look at how this planning can be done with a high quality and a good quality, and we want to replicate that or write up the quality factors in this. So the importance is definitely there, and having this compulsory part to it, I think, helps greatly to introduce it and to push it.
Yeah, I would like to add also that strategic planning here in Denmark often is taking place, for example, in the Danish district heating organization that has, for example, the means to influence politicians and to take part in the debate of how to develop the district heating systems in Denmark, because we have about 350 what you can call district heating systems in Denmark, and those guys are represented by their own organization. So the planning that they have to do is actually something they can get from the district heating organization that interacts with the politicians. So it is actually something that is coming out of the way the Danish system works. Like, for example, the politicians point the way we would like to do more energy from electricity. So we would like to use our windmills, and we would like to turn power into X and so on. And this is something that is coming up, and then the district heating organization works on behalf of the district heating networks, so to say. Okay.
Thank you a lot. I see the time is pressing us. I would like to thank all the panelists for joining and also for your contributions in the project. I think it was excellent collaboration. And now I will continue with introducing the next speaker, Ms. Anna Krasachenka She is a project manager and knowledge transfer and communication at Euroheat and Power. She was also very actively involved in the upgraded project as a work package leader on regional national action plans and European-wide replication. And in addition, we are very proud of the implementation of our image raising campaign for modern district heating networks, which was also led by Oksana. So many thanks. And here I would like just to mention that Oksana will speak about how to improve the perception of district heating at local level. So very interesting topic. All stakeholders still need to work on this aspect. So I hope that we can hear some nice thoughts from Oksana. Oksana, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita, for your nice introduction. I think that the organizers will be also strict with me in terms of timing, but I will try not to go too long with my presentation. Yes, I will talk about how to improve the perception of district heating at a local level. Because it was one of the tasks within the Upgrade DH project, which we enjoyed very much working on this challenge. But the first question is, why do we need to improve the image and the perception of district heating? Well, perhaps of these images. Dominique already showed them. Luckily, I haven't seen such district heating systems during my career at Euroheat and Power, and it's been 8 years now. I've only seen efficient and renewable-based district heating systems that we worked on in the framework of our European projects. But we cannot neglect that these images exist, these systems still exist, and they obviously don't help us promoting this technology in Europe. So the objectives of the image raising campaign, the European image raising campaign for modern district heating and cooling systems, was to improve the perception at a local level, establish district heating as a viable solution for the energy transition in the minds of citizens. So our target group was general public. I must say that it's very difficult to reach general public from Brussels, let's say. So obviously we counted a lot on the cooperation with our Upgrade DH partners and local stakeholders to transmit these messages and to transmit these promotional materials that we developed within the campaign. We tried to do this in a simple language, so it's understandable for citizens. And we translated these materials in different languages and disseminated through our multiplier organizations and social media channels. So just very briefly, what we have done in the framework of this image raising campaign, we started with a web page. So it's a website where we tried to gather resources about district heating and cooling, videos, brochures, also some testimonials from citizens, what they think about this technology. We tried to also showcase national examples of campaigns or some very innovative district heating and cooling projects that are happening on site. So when you visit this page, you will see national flags. You click on it, you are redirected to some other pages that we consider relevant and that are in their national languages. We have also embedded an interactive map of cities that would like to show their success stories related to district heating and cooling implementation. So you can browse this interactive map. And we gave the possibility to share their own stories. So we invited our general public to think, first of all, where your heat comes from. If you know something about it, also educate people in their respective communities and talk to their local politicians and also involve them in the transition process. A part of the web page, we have developed a brochure. As I said, we tried to use simple language. It is available on the dhcitizen.eu webpage and also on the Upgrade DH website, where we explain what district heating and cooling systems are, how they work, and what they can bring to cities and citizens in terms of short and long-term benefits. We promoted Upgrade DH case studies, translated this brochure in Lithuanian, Italian, Croatian, Bosnian, German, and Polish languages. And in the framework of this campaign, we have also developed the iconic image of district heating. So if you see somewhere this picture, you know that it has been developed in the framework of Upgrade DH. We have also used a nice video about decarbonizing district heating and cooling for cities. We have translated it into different languages, published it on YouTube, used it during our events, and in general, it has been already viewed by around 6,000 YouTube visitors. We have also integrated some city stories in our campaign. So obviously, when citizens hear their local city representatives, politicians talking about district heating and cooling, they start wondering and actually understanding what it really means for their community. So we have collected testimonials from Tuzla, Grudias, Ferrara, and Marburg, and integrated them into this interactive map. Obviously, we went on social media channels, so we used the Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook to conduct our social media campaign with the hashtag DHCitizen. So now if you search for it, you will find a lot of interesting posts coming from not only Euroheat and Power, but various organizations around Europe with interesting examples, best practices, national campaigns, etc. So I invite you to check and to join this social media campaign. We have also conducted a photo contest. So here what we try to do is to highlight the people and jobs involved in district heating and cooling and the human faces behind this technology. So we asked our network to send pictures, images of themselves. We also contacted projects, European projects, and we received these photos that we posted on social media and had some voting. So the photo that gathered most likes and shares, that was the winner of the campaign, and he was invited to the Euroheat and Power Congress. Yeah, obviously, due to the pandemic, we also used this as a good promotional opportunity. So we printed face masks with the hashtag DHCitizen, and we sent them to the participants of the International District Heating and Cooling Summer School. Last year, it was held online. Thus, all the participants from around the world received such a mask that they can wear and promote district heating in their countries, in their cities. So, for example, this picture, it's from a student from Australia. So we went even further than Europe with these face masks. And this year, the summer school was held in Sweden. And again, we had participants from all over Europe, from all over the world. And we used these masks again to promote this technology. Also because these students and these young professionals can really talk to the citizens and explain how it works and what benefits it brings. In the framework of the campaign, we have also involved professional journalists who helped us write articles and stories about district heating in specific countries. So it's just an example of an article about Lithuanian energy transition. And these articles were published also by European media. I think it's worth mentioning also the Euroheat and Power Congress because it's the most important event in the DHC calendar, and this year it was attended by over 350 participants, and the focus was on Lithuania. As it was the host of this year's Congress. And it made a significant impact on the promotion of renewable efficient district heating in this country. There were multiple sessions on Lithuania with involved stakeholders, local stakeholders from across the country. And this is just an example, but also the event in Italy was a great promotional opportunity for district heating and cooling in Italy. Some other nice examples that I would like to mention is the German informative website about district heating and cooling, so targeting general public citizens, where they can learn about the technology, the benefits, the costs, and also discover nice videos in German. Some other examples that we came across during this campaign is an example from Estonia. So they have developed a district heating promotional app that consumers can download, and they can learn about this technology, where their heat comes from, what are the energy sources used, how the price is formed. So information, promotion, and also fostering cooperation between citizens and the utility. So it's a very nice example that I like to show. And as results of our campaign, so with all these promotional tools that we developed and disseminated, we have reached to over 45,000 individuals. And I hope that we managed to raise awareness, to raise interest in this technology. We managed to bring nice examples. We also inspired ourselves. And if you check this campaign, if you get in touch with us, we can also provide you with nice examples that you could implement locally to make district heating consumers the heroes of our time. Is the best way to involve them in the energy transition. So I would like to close my presentation with this statement, with this nice example, again, coming from Estonia. But if you have any questions, feel free to contact Upgrade DH, myself, and I invite you to become a DH citizen and to help us promote district heating in Europe. Thank you very much for your attention. So I'll start multitasking and introduce also our next speaker. If you just allow me 1 second. Our next speaker is our project officer, Stavros Stamatukos, and he is a project manager at CNEA. And this is the European Climate Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency, the former EASME. So we have invited Stavros to give some concluding remarks about Upgrade DH and also other projects in this field, and give us some food for thought for the future, how we can implement such projects. So Stavros, please, the floor is yours. Can you share your camera?
Hello, Oksana. Hello, everyone. And if you give me a second to share my screen as well.
It works, thank you.
Works nice? Okay, yes. So hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for inviting me here. Thanks for the very nice workshop I've been following since early in the morning. So my name is Stavros Stamatukos. I'm a project manager with CNEA. Since April, the project was granted by EASME 3 years ago, but of course stayed with us until closure. And today, I'm going to do 2 things. One is give you a retrospective of what we have achieved through the previous program, the Horizon 2020, in the area of heating and cooling and district heat networks. So I will give you an idea of what kind of projects we have funded and in which areas. And then I will close with the upcoming program, Horizon Europe, which is already published for the next, at least for the next 2 years. So starting with Horizon 2020, we have funded 35 projects in the area of heating and cooling, 17 research and innovation actions, 13 innovation actions, and 5 coordination and support actions like this project Upgrade the Aids. The total budget is much more than 100 million euros over the past 7 years. And you can see here the 7 categories. They're broad categories, I would say. Maybe they don't correspond directly to specific topics, but they are broad categories that we have funded projects. So you can see that we funded projects for heat recovery in industry, and we had a call for specifically for data centers. We funded projects on district heating and cooling technology, modeling, mapping and planning tools, coordination and support actions on the uptake of heating and cooling solutions, low grade and waste heat, and finally upgrade of district heat networks like your topic here. So I will go through these 7 areas and I will give you an examples of projects. I will not go into the detail of each project. You can find everything in either on the websites of the projects or on the Cordis platform of the European Commission. All the results, at least the public results, are published there. You can have access, or you can use my presentation as a reference to look for this project. So in the area of heat recovery in industry, this was one of the first topics that we published in 2015. We started with research and innovation actions. We funded a number of projects there with objective to develop a solution to recover heat from industrial processes like cement, glass, steel making, petrochemical, etc. So, sorry, I will go back. To achieve this goal, the projects had to develop real demo cases and pilot them in real sites. And we have a number of industries represented in this project, so I invite you to look at them. As I said before, they come from various industries such as glass, steel making, petrochemical, etc. So in the coming years, from 2016 to 2020, we kept the same topic, but then as an innovations action. So again, actions on the improvement of the energy efficiency of large industrial systems. But then they had to go a step further, not only recover heat, but suggest economically viable solution for the valorization of the heat, develop business models, business plan, contractual obligations between involved parties, etc. So we have a number of projects funded there. As I said, this was a topic repeated in 4 or 5 years from 2016 to 2020, and many good examples. So in 2017, we had a very concrete topic on heat recovery from data centers. The idea behind this topic was to bring innovative and energy efficient heating or cooling solutions for data centers, reuse the waste heat, balance the workload, either temporal or geographical, integration of local and remote renewable energy sources, smart grid integration, and the integration with district heating and cooling networks. So we funded 2 projects that they took 2 different approaches, and we were very happy with this. So Catalyst project addressed the challenges through turning a number of data centers into multi-energy hubs by offering flexibility services, either with electricity or with heat grids. On the other hand, Boden type, they applied a different approach. So they developed a cooling system that combined evaporative cooler module using solely renewable energy. So two different projects that took two different approaches, and we have very, very interesting results and a great interest to repeat this topic in the new program. Moving down with district heating and cooling technology, we started again in 2004 with a research and innovation topic to develop a new generation of high efficient intelligent district heating systems. The objectives were to bring down heat distribution losses and integrate storage through the use of innovative pipe and capacity design, high performance insulation materials, and reduced operating temperatures. Also, the objective of these projects were to develop optimization, control, metering, planning, and modeling tools such as intelligent thermal and agile controllers. Very interesting results from these projects as well on the research scale. And then I moved to a different family of projects, the projects on modeling, mapping, and planning of energy systems. Excluding the Heat Roadmap Europe, that it was a coordination and support action, but I included it in this category because they developed the Pan-European Thermal Atlas, if I remember correct the name. So the other three tools, they were funded from the same topic with the objective to develop tools to assist regional and national authorities to conclude their heating and cooling planning. The planning tools should be able to process large data that they exist, or the projects work towards this direction to collect the data and make them available to public authorities. Again, here we were very happy to have three complementary projects, hot maps, thermals, and plan heat, that they took three different approaches, and all of them very successful and very interesting, and contributed a lot to the comprehensive assessment, which was a policy obligation for many member states in various countries. So the tools took a different approach. Some of them, they were web-based or standalone software. But in the end, they contributed towards improving mapping and planning facilities for local and national authorities. And then I will move to another family of projects, the coordination and support actions to uptake efficient heating and cooling solutions. Again, here, a number of interesting projects that they created methods to accelerate the replacement of old and inefficient space heaters and packaged cooling system with new efficient systems of high energy efficiency. Then in 2006, we had a research and innovation call on low-grade and waste heat, where we funded these three projects. These three projects developed technologies that they use the low-valued and low-grade energy sources, like residual and renewable sources, for example, from geothermal energy, in low-exergy heating and cooling systems. So the technology used here, they were able to take advantage of very low temperature sources, for example, from residual or geothermal energy, as I said, and upgrade them in order to generate useful heating and cooling solutions. And finally, the same topic was repeated in 2017 as an innovation action when with the same objectives, but the actions here, they were needed to demonstrate the applicability of these low temperature district solutions in large-scale demonstrations. So again, a number of projects, very successful, most of them concluded as we speak now, but you can find the results online. So finally, the two projects that they were funding from this coordination and support action in 2017, Keep Warm and Upgrade DH. I will not go further into the detail and the requirements of the call. You're very well aware. I will just mention here that it was fortunate that the two projects had the complementary geographical coverage. That's why I put the maps here. So we had two projects working in parallel in two different regions covering most of Europe, where at least district heating are applicable. So that was a success story as well. Keep Warm. I will just give you very briefly some data. The geographic coverage is these countries: Austria, Croatia, the Czech Republic, Latvia, Slovenia, Serbia, and Ukraine. As you can see, it's fully complementary to your project. And some outcomes, the project was concluded in December last year. So we have a number of employees of district heating operators, about 600 that they were trained. The project developed tailor-made technical advisory services for the modernization of 24 existing district heating systems. And this was achieved by concluding pre-feasibility analysis, business plan development, technical support, legal advice. Excuse me. At the same time, the project supported the development of 39 national and local energy and climate plans, contributed to the investment decision of 12 district heating systems with a total value of 100 million euros. And provided recommendations in a number of countries for the conclusion of the comprehensive assessment, which is an obligation of the member states under Article 14 of the Energy Efficiency Directive. Now moving to the second part of my presentation, my short presentation that I will speak about now and about the future. As you know, since April last year, there was a transfer of our activities from EASME to SINEA. Nothing changed for you and for the outside world. This is an internal reorganization, but at the same time, we have a new program, a new mandate. Horizon Europe is our new mandate. Here you can see a number of programs that they were collected together under the same roof, which is a very good development. You can see that most programs related to energy, transport, infrastructure, and networks are managed by SINEA, which allows for, of course, efficiencies, optimization, and development of synergies. So apart from Horizon Europe, the Innovation Fund, the LIFE program, and a number of other mechanisms like the Renewable Energy mechanism, the Just Transition mechanism are managed by SINEA. At the same time, the Connecting Europe Facility Part 2 stays with SINEA, and the Maritime Fisheries and Aquaculture Fund is with us. So a number of programs and many opportunities for funding in the coming years. And I will come to that now. Maybe the news are not so good for the moment for your industry that you represent here today, since we don't have a very clear heating and cooling topic in the Horizon Europe work program for the first 2 years, 2021 and 2022. This was a decision above us, so it was not decided by us. It was co-decided by, there was a co-creation group by the member states, committees, and the DGs. And but I have a collection here of topics and broader areas that touch upon the topics that we discuss here today. So heating and cooling and district heat systems. So you can find some interesting topics under the renewables and the energy storage areas under Destination 3, which is the sustainable, secure, and competitive energy supply. So on the supply side, there are a number of topics that heating and cooling is an important element. like the micro CHP and hybrid heating systems, geothermal energy, renewable storage in off-grid applications, agro-photovoltaic systems, and then on the energy area, innovative forms of storage and thermal energy storage. I will move to the demand side, which is what we call destination 4. And here you can find also interesting topics under 2 broad areas, the area of buildings and industry. On the building side, we have several obligations for heating and cooling systems for the industrialization of the renovation workflows for buildings. And the topic on the prefabricated holistic renovation packages. Of course, there is a topic on energy positive homes, I think coming in 2022. And the smart grid ready and smart network ready buildings that requires the interface of buildings with electricity and heat networks. On the industry, we have 2 topics open already. I think the deadline mid-October on the heat upgrade technologies in industry and the industrial waste heat to power utilization. And then concretely for district heating, again, nothing clear cut for district heat systems for the moment. As I said, this is the work program only for 21 and 22. And the work program for the next years is underway. For district heat systems, you can find in the energy sector integration a big involvement, and it will play an important role in the integration area. And again, on the demand side, in destination 4, the district heating systems are a requirement in the 2 district topics. One is on the resilience of the infrastructure of the built environment, and the other is the topic on the regeneration of sustainable neighborhoods. So this is all what we have for the moment. I invite you to have a look on the work program. It's where it was always on the funding and tenders portal. You can have a look and come back to us for any questions you might have, how the heating and cooling and district heat can fit on these topics. Of course, I invite you to look at other programs as well. As I said, the LIFE Clean Energy Transition is a sub-program of LIFE, is a new one that will be managing what we used to call coordination and support actions under Horizon 2020. So Horizon Europe does not have coordination and support actions, so they were moved, or at least it has very limited and not in our destinations. So these have been moved to the LIFE sub-program. So if you're interested to apply for market uptake action, you should look at the LIFE core program. The Innovation Fund is a very interesting program, especially for commercial and private entities. It is a huge fund of 10 billion using mostly income from the emissions trading scheme, and finances project across different areas that to reduce actual emissions. So as I said, this is a commercial, it's not a research project, and I invite the commercial partners that they are present today to have a look at it and come back to us for any question you might have. It's very interesting, it's ongoing, and it has 2 different levels of application. It's the large scale, for large scale projects. I think it's about 15 million euros, and the small scale 2 to 5 million euros for small scale projects. And last but not least is the Connecting Europe facility. It finances energy infrastructure networks. The program continues as it used to be, and this might be also interesting for the district heat utilities that are present today to have a look at it. It's directly targeted to this kind of infrastructure. So that was all from my side. I hope I was on time, and I hope it was interesting. I asked the project coordinator and Oksana to share the presentation with you so that you have the reference to all these projects and calls. You know where to find us. We are always available through these communication channels, and me personally, through your coordinator, you can email me directly for any question about past and ongoing calls. I was very happy to be the project officer for this project. Indeed, it was a very well managed project, and thanks to the coordinator and all the participants for the cooperation. I'm very happy to close the project. We started together, and I'm happy to close the project. Personally, this is not very often in our case. Usually there is a redistribution of portfolios between the officers, but in this case, I followed from start to end. And indeed, it was a very well run project with significant results. Thanks a lot for the cooperation over the past years. Thanks for this nice event. And we'll be in contact. I'm at your availability. Thanks, and have a nice afternoon.
Thank you very much, Stavros. On behalf of the Upgrade DH Consortium, we also would like to thank you for your support and your availability. But this is not it. I would like to invite you personally and all the attendees of this event to join us after the lunch break. So at 2 o'clock, we will continue, and you will have a chance to virtually visit 2 CHP plants that recently undertook upgrading measures. And I believe they can serve as inspiration for other district heating systems that are striving to become more efficient. So after the virtual visits, we will have the online networking part where all the Upgrade DH partners will be present, I hope. So our participants can exchange, can ask remaining questions that we didn't have time to address during the first part of the event. So please stay with us. Now, obviously, you have a right to have a lunch break, and we will see you at 2 o'clock to resume with our program. Thank you very much for your attention so far, and see you later. Dear participants of the final Upgrade DH event, welcome again. I hope you enjoyed your lunch break. Now we will resume our final conference with the virtual study tours. Just for the history, our final event was supposed to take place in Brussels. And at first we were a little bit disappointed that we couldn't meet again all together in Brussels. But on the other hand, we would not be able to visit these amazing CHP plants in Berlin and Vilnius. Thanks to the technology, we will do it now virtually. And I would like to introduce Ruben Hoffman from Vattenfall, who will be your guide to the virtual study tour in Berlin, Germany, Reuter West CHP plant. Ruben, could you please share your screen?
Of course, thank you so much.
And the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hope you can see my screen. Welcome from my side as well. Welcome to the next agenda point where we'll be showcasing our location that we have here in Berlin.
We don't see your screen yet.
Ah, sorry. Let me work on that. There it is. I hope so. Now, I'm sure.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Once again, yeah, welcome from my side. Welcome to the next point of the agenda where we'll be showcasing the Reuter West CHP plant and all the auxiliary assets that we have here. And maybe a bit about my person. I'm a project manager for Vattenfall and I work at Reuter West. So I'll be showing you around here. It'll be 2 parts. So first, it's a presentation of about 50 minutes, showing you all the assets that we have here, maybe a bit about the timeline, and then we will actually jump into the virtual tour itself. And yes, I would jump actually right into it. As you can see by the timeline itself, it's a very old location. It's actually two locations, if you are precise. It's the old power plant Reuter and the newer one, Reuter West. Started in 1931, as you can see, so there's a lot of history. It was commissioned in 1931. Actually, it was built in 1920 and 1930. It's quite historically significant, if you will. So it was bombed during World War II and then reconstructed in 1948. It underwent a lot of upgrades throughout the time. And the last running block, which was Reuter C, went into commission in 1967 and went out of commission actually just two years ago. The next big thing you can see here is Reuter West, which went into commission 1987 and 1989. So that's the newer. It's a big power plant that we have here in Berlin. And then we also have the MIFA, which is I will get more into detail on that. That's the turbine that we have in cooperation with our cleaning company in Berlin, where we use the steam of the waste incineration plant. And that's it about the past. I will show you the assets in a minute in the presentation, and then I will jump into the virtual tour itself. Then we would also like to do what we have in the present, because there's also a lot of things, a lot of change happening as we speak, and a lot of change has already been done, part in terms of district heating. And then we will also look a bit into in the future. And maybe you can see the timeline above. It's quite a nice location to see where we came from, where we are right now, what we're doing right now, and where we want to be in the future. Okay, that's the site or the sites you can see on the top left. That's the old power plant of Reuter. And then here in the middle, you can see the big Reuter West, which is the biggest CHP plant in Berlin. And then we have all kind of assets located on that site. We have a lot of cooperations going on with neighboring companies. And we will get into the details in a minute. And like I said, I would like to start in the past. That is, that's Reuter, this used to be Reuter, was commissioned in 1948. After the construction, obviously, we had it running until 1931. And it went out of commissioning in 2019, 2 years ago, which is part of our phase 1 step for fossil-free future, to phase out of coal, then use gas as a bridge technology, and then go into a fossil-free generation. We used to have at peak an installed electrical capacity of 458 megawatt. The last running block, which was Reuter C, only had 132 megawatt of electrical power and 169 of thermal power. In terms of efficiency, it's actually quite similar still to the new power plant that we have. We have an overall efficiency of 80% and at maximum condensation of 49%. Okay, now let's stay in Reuter, but look at what we're doing as of right now. Like I said, Reuter itself is completely out of commissioning, but there's still things happening inside in terms of district heating. Also, we are looking to the future. So we have a few projects going on there. So first of all, we have the turbine, which we run in cooperation with the waste incineration plant, which is on the other side of the River Spree. And so they have a waste incineration plant, and they have certain boilers, but they don't have the infrastructure and a turbine, so they can't use steam that they're generating. So they approached us, and we actually built a turbine inside the machine hall. And you can also see it is geared toward district heating. So we have a thermal capacity of 162 megawatt and just 60 megawatt of electrical power. Yeah, we will see that in a moment. And then next to it, we have a pilot project going on with a partner from Sweden called Sortex. They invented it yeah, let's say a solution to store energy within salt. So it's a chemical energy storage. It's actually quite interesting. It's not run by us. It is run in cooperation with us. So we give them the location and all the auxiliaries, and they actually erected the plant. They're running it, and it's quite interesting. I will not get too much into the details about that, but we will also see that in the virtual tour. And if you have any more specific questions about that, I'm the project leader for that pilot project as well, so you can approach me afterwards. Okay, and now maybe look at the big one, which is Reuter West, which is 2 blocks actually. They're now still already 30 years old, so they went into commission in 87 and 89, and they will probably be decommissioned in 1929. We as a Vattenfall itself, we have a goal to phase out of coal completely by 2030 the latest. And the plan as of right now is to phase out of coal in 2029. So that's the goal as of right now. Like I said, it's the biggest one in Berlin. We have an installed capacity of 600 megawatt of electrical power divided on 2 turbines. So we have 2 blocks, block D and E, each with 300 megawatts, and installed thermal capacity of just over 700 megawatts. Efficiency, once again, quite different to the old one actually. It's an 80-40 split, which is quite common. And yeah, now maybe look at what we have done already. So we are still in the present, but we are not at conventional heat generation. We went into commissioning with the Europe's biggest power to heat boiler a year ago, which is separated into 3 boilers with capacity of each 40 megawatt of thermal power. So we have 120 megawatt of thermal capacity with that power to heat plant. Once again, I will not jump too much into the details itself. I will maybe show it in the virtual tour itself. I think these slides, or a lot of these slides, are actually still within the virtual tour itself. Quite interesting project. We still have a long way to go in terms of power to heat. There's a few political boundaries, let's say, and quite interesting. And also, if you look at the efficiency with 99%, that's quite a big step up to a very complicated coal-fired power plant. Okay. Next up, we also have a gas-fired heat-only boiler. Once again, similar configuration, 3 boilers, 40 megawatt each. Efficiency is also quite high at 97.5%. And maybe if you remember correctly, this is kind of part of our phase 2. So phase 1 is phasing out of coal and replace it by gas as a bridge technology. And this is what we've done here with our gas hobs. We actually replaced the old power plant Reuter with those. So Reuter could go out of commissioning because these gas-fired heat-only boilers, they replace the capacity of the old power plant. Okay, maybe now look into the future. We're not done yet at the location. So first of all, we will build a heat storage. That'll come in the near future. We hope it will go into commissioning next year. The construction is going on as we speak. It'll be a hot water heat storage, which will run in combination with the power heat plant that we have to have a more flexible use of that. And we will have a maximum heat extraction of 200 megawatts. It's 50 by 50 meters, so also quite a big one. And then looking into the further future, 1929, when Reuter West will go out of decommissioning, we will have a hybrid CHP running by then, which will be gas-fired, and most importantly, it will be hydrogen ready to make it possible to go out of commissioning with the Reuter West plant. And here, once again, you can see it is natural gas-fired for the moment, which is our phase 2, and then phase 3, we want to run it with hydrogen. So to have a next step to be fossil-free and run it with hydrogen. Okay, then 2 projects on top. And we will also go into a cooperation with another company that we have across the river. And that's the sewage plant, the sewage treatment plant. And in cooperation with them, we will build a heat pump on site. We hope it will be in 2025 when it will go into commissioning, and it will have a thermal capacity of 70 megawatts. And then we will also replace the MIFO turbine, which is currently in the old power plant Reuter. We'll build a brand new one. It will have similar design of 30 megawatts of electrical power, and then slightly above 100 of thermal power actually. Okay, that's it about the presentation. And now I would actually like to jump into the virtual tour itself. I hope you can see the screen. First of all, I have to start with a little bit of a bummer. It is not public yet. So you can see it, we are working on that, and we will try to make it available for you as well in the future. I would like to start with the handling. And if you are used to Google Street View, it will be quite similar. So you have a 360-degree view. You can zoom in and out. And then maybe, as you see, you have information points, which will be here. You can click on that. And then we have a little bit of information here in both German and English for the most part. And yeah, first of all, where are we? Yeah, we are at the control room of Reuter West, which is where all the assets are controlled and monitored. And then you can look around and you can navigate by exiting, or you can jump to the overview. I think it is German, but I think navigation highlights should be all quite universal. Yeah, maybe let's move out for a bit. Now we are outside of the main building. Here are the two blocks. This is block D and block E. You can already see the power to heat here, but maybe let's just start with a little bit of an overview. You should be quite familiar with the picture which is coming up. And all these bullet points here, you can see where you can jump on the site. And I would say just to start, let's go into the machine hall itself to show you a bit where we came from. Then I would like to go onto the roof where you have an overview about our strategy for the future. And then I will jump into the assets that we have already on site. That's the machine hall. We have a shared machine hall. We have two different boiler houses. We are in between the turbines. That's the turbine for block D and for block E. Like I said, 300 megawatts of electrical power and 350 megawatts of thermal power. Once again, you have an information button. You can look at it. You'll see it has 3 different pressure stages. I will not get too much into the detail because I think I have to look a bit on the time itself, and maybe about the information buttons itself. You can go on the highlight button here, and then you can see all the information buttons listed throughout the tour. So if you're just interested into the information, you can just jump into that. But I think it is quite nice to have a look at what it actually looks on site. Okay, now we can actually go into the boiler house. Nothing too special here. Just showcasing it maybe for a bit. We can actually use, which is quite a nice feature, we can use the elevator to go down. Just to start, where you can see our mills. So we have 4 mills, which grind the coal into coal dust, which will then be fired within the boiler. You can actually see the functioning here. And that's the mill itself, the grinding rollers. And then maybe let's just go on to the roof. Maybe quite a nice feature here. Now we are on top of the boiler itself. It is hanging from the top, so it can expand when it gets warm. And it actually expands up to 0.5 meter between cold and operation when it is hot. Okay, now let's go on to the roof. From here, you have quite a nice overview over Berlin. Actually, we are on top of the boiler house. Here you can see the old power plant of Reuter. You can see the waste incineration plant, which is run by the BSR. And then you can already see the gas-fired heat-only boiler right here. And you can already see the preparation for the construction of the heat storage. So this is where the heat storage is built as we speak. We also have the foundation here already. And then that space here will be used for the hybrid CHP. And then the heat pump will be located here, so it'll get quite crowded in the future. And maybe here for the information side, just to showcase you how we try to achieve the change in district heating for the future. So as of right now, you could see it was quite conventional. And you already see what we're doing on here. So we will try to integrate more and more power to heat into the system, hybrid CHPs, of course, heat storages as well, waste heat, which we actually have coming from the waste incineration plant, industrial heat, big industrial heat pumps, solar thermal power we don't have on site here, but we have a project in Berlin at another asset, and geothermal energy as well. We look into that, and all these pieces we are trying to integrate to phase away from fossil, to get into a fossil-free future in the future. Here are the phases. Once again, like I told you, phase 1 was actually phasing out of lignite, which we've done by, I think, 2017 already. Then phasing out of coal, have the bridge technology with gas, and then have a fossil-free heat generation in the future. Okay, and now I would say we can jump first of all to the old power plant of fired heat-only boiler, and then I would like to jump into the power to heat plant. I think it should do it for the time. Yes, maybe here quite nice to see. Like I said, construction was in 1929, and back then very much different times. So we used to have 3 different blocks, and as you can see, you can already see an evolution here. First of all, it was just boiler and chimney. We didn't have much of flue gas cleaning at all. That was the first step with an electrical static filter. And as you can see now, maybe if we jump back into the overview, that whole building here is flue gas cleaning. So we can also see that we've come quite a long way. Like I said, I will not go too much into the history of Reuter. It is quite interesting, actually. Like I said, it was bombed and had to be reconstructed via the via plane, obviously, because Berlin used to be like an island within Germany. Quite interesting, but I would actually like to focus on the new technology that we have here. Let's go into the machine hall. Yeah, let's start with quick overview. All the way back there, the red one, that's the former turbine of Reuter C, the last running block of Reuter. The blue one here, not those ones, that one actually, that's the turbine for our waste incineration plant, which we run into cooperation with the BSR, our neighbor across the river. Like I said, 162 megawatt, so it's quite a bit. And it'll run until 2025, and then we will have a new contract with the BSR and a newer Mifa turbine in the future. And then maybe looking a bit more into the future, or what could be a future, that's the pilot plant that we run in cooperation with Saltex. It's probably a bit too complex for now to explain it. But here we are actually looking into storing energy within salt. Quite interesting because it is a chemical storage, which is quite rare, and it has a few benefits. It's very versatile, yeah, like I said, if you're interested in more information, you can contact me afterwards. It's quite interesting because it's very flexible, so you can charge it or discharge it with heat or with electricity, and you can also choose whether or not you want to discharge it as heat or electricity. Because of the chemical reactioning happening inside, we reach quite high temperatures. So for us, we're looking into district heating. We obviously like to discharge heat to our district heating net, which is what we are doing right now. So it is running, generating heat for our district heating grid. But because of the temperature level that we have here, it would be possible as well to generate steam again, and thereby generating electricity again. So like you can see, it's old plant, but still a bit of life inside, and yeah, a lot of future technology happening here as well. Okay, now we are outside again. So to the left of us, that's the old plant of Reuter. You can see Reuter West in the distance here of the 2 blocks. And that is our gas-fired heat-only boilers. Actually quite nice to see, look at the sizes. So maybe if we jump on the roof again. Like I said, this is Reuter. Obviously, it used to have 3 blocks, but still, if you look at the size, that amount of area used to generate 170 megawatt of thermal power. Now it's replaced by a gas-fired heat-only boiler, which is quite significant, less in size, and also has a better efficiency. Okay, now we're inside. It is separated into a pump house for all the hydraulics, and obviously the boiler itself. That's an overview, so you can see these 3 boilers right here, and all the rest is just auxiliary for hydraulics. That's our pump stations. Yeah, you might be familiar with that slide. So we have 3 heat-only boilers with each 40 megawatt. It's using natural gas and has efficiency of 97.5%, which is quite good. And they are commissioning, very vital for our heat supply within Berlin. This is the design of heat boiler itself. Nothing too crazy, actually, just a burner and a few pipes, basically. And yeah, that's about it. And maybe you see last bit of time to go into our power to heat plant. Here we are already inside. Maybe if we go up for now. Now we are more or less on top of the 3 boilers. Like I said, similar configuration to our gas-fired heat-only boilers. 3 boilers, 40 megawatt each. We have all the hydraulics and pump stations below it. And maybe just look into the future a bit. This is just about our idea for fossil-free future. Quite interesting, actually. 130 megawatt. What does that actually do? So in the winter times, we can supply heat to 36,000 households, and in summer, the heat generated by our power heat plant can actually supply up to 360,000 households. Okay, maybe look into to that again. And once again, we have 3 of those boilers. We have 6 electrodes within, and they are controlled quite similar to nuclear, actually. So we have like a porcelain sleeve around those copper electrodes, and by sliding them up and down, we can actually change how much output we have. As of right now, it is powered by our 22 kilowatt grid of the power plant Reuter West. That has a reason. The reason is that we would have to pay a lot of levies and taxes if we would take electricity out of the grid, which doesn't make it very feasible. So we are using our own generated power. The idea obviously is to go into talks with our politicians to showcase that we have an asset which could generate green and clean heat if we would be able to use electricity generated by wind parks and so on, but just to showcase that our politics make it quite hard to actually run it feasible. Like I said, we're quite happy to have the power plant, which is supplying the electricity, so that's okay for now. Next step that we did is the heat storage, which is not in that tour because it is still built. Because as of right now, the heat that we generate, we actually have to feed it right into the heating grid. Now with the heat storage coming next year, that's our possibility to make it more flexible, to store the heat for a certain bit of time and to run our asset more flexible. Okay, I think that would be it for a very brief overview over our occasion. And I think I would get back to Oksana now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ruben, for this very efficient virtual tour. I think it would not have been possible to do it in reality so quickly. I do not see any questions for you yet, but I would like to invite our participants to ask questions in the Q&A box, and then Ruben can also address them in writing. And now I would like to open the floor to our next speaker and virtual tour. I will just introduce Paulus Martinkus, who will be our guide to the CHP plant 2 in Vilnius, Lithuania. And he will be also assisted by his colleague Gitautas Kaulakis. And they will introduce the virtual tour, and then you will be actually able to explore it yourself using the hyperlink that we will send you in the chat. And Paulus and Gitautas will stay online until 3 o'clock to answer any questions you may have. So you can send all questions in the Q&A box. And then at 3 o'clock, there will be a surprise for all the attendees who remain with us until the end. Thank you so much. And Paulus, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So hello, everyone. And can somebody give the right to share the screen?
You can do it now, Paulus.
Okay, good. So very briefly about Vilnius District Heating Company. So yes, so we are integrated district heating company in Lithuania, and we are operating only in one city in the capital of Lithuania, in Vilnius. By saying integrated, I mean that we are responsible for servicing our clients. We have in total almost 220,000 of households. And we are serving roughly 80% of Vilnius residents. And we are operating almost 750 kilometers of the grid. And during last year in 2020, there was 2.7 almost terawatt hours of heat delivered to the grid. And out of this, basically in Vilnius, we have the system where independent heat producers also participate in the heat production. So we are not the only ones who are producing the heat. So we produced 1.5 terawatt hours last year on our facilities for the heat production and supplied to the grid. So yeah, that's very briefly. So we have independent heat producers, as I said, and I guess another thing that I would like to stress, and that in Lithuania in general, or in Vilnius, we don't use any coal. We have 61% of the total heat that comes from renewable energy sources, and in particular, it's from the biomass. And it is in Vilnius 61%. Last year it was, in 2019 it was 54%, so 7% up. And in next couple of years we expect that renewable energy source share will go up to 90%, as there will be additional CHP facilities that will be producing heat out of the biomass, will be operating. So on that side, we are relatively green in producing the heat. And while talking about our long-term strategy, so we have quite ambitious plans. We have kind of drafted the strategy until 2040, and there we see a lot of investments, revenue growth, as well as the profitability. And I guess one of the key items is that by 2030 we expect to be fossil-free in Vilnius District Heating Company. So maybe that's briefly about our company, and now I will share the tour. So when clicking on the link, you will go to this page. So firstly, let's switch to English, and you can click start. Okay, so I was too fast. It's English and start. And you will see our facilities. And here you will have a chance, firstly, to get some quick intro. So there is a 2-minute introduction to our facility. In this facility, we have more than 900 megawatts of thermal power and 27 megawatts of electrical power. So that's our CHP. And here you will have a chance to visit 5 tours. So the main production plant, then the boiler room, the second tour. Then there is biomass or biofuel facility, where we are supplying the biofuel to the biomass boiler. Then there is a water preparation facility, and the 5th one is the bunker. So if you want to see basically the bunker from the World Wars, also to see. And here basically you just click on the tour, and yes. Let's switch to English. So yeah, there will be a chance to listen to the quick intro. There will be an information marks, so you can click for more information. And you can navigate by clicking on the arrows, and you will be able to see or to walk through the whole facility in our main production power plant, which we also call the Monster. So so this is it for the quick intro. I will paste the link. I'm not sure. Okay, Oksana already pasted the link. So just click on the link, and you will have a chance to go to walk through the facility. And if you have any questions on the go or after exploring, just let us know.
Thank you very much, Paulus. Yes, indeed, I pasted the link in the chat to everyone. So if you cannot find the link, please ask it in the Q&A box. We will resend it as well. And if you have any questions while exploring the Vilnius CHP plant, please also type them in the Q&A box. Thank you.
I see a question here regarding the supply of the biomass. So, so in Lithuania we are quite abundant with biomass. So we have quite significant sources for that. Also, historically, we had relatively high prices for the gas, natural gas. So that's why it was rational shift from importing the resources of the natural gas and shifting more to the local resources of the biomass. Currently, yes, there is kind of biomass that is supplied from the local forests, but there is also biomass that is imported from Belarus, so which is also supplier of biomass in Lithuania. So on that side, we haven't had kind of shortages, at least as of now. Roberto, can you clarify, is this the question for Ruben, or is it regarding Vilnius facilities? As we plan to also install the absorption heat pump in our facilities as well to reach higher efficiencies of the biomass boiler. Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Ruben, could you please address this question live?
Yeah, sure. Yes and no. So the future shows that the volatility within the market will increase. So the market price for electricity would change significantly. So we would obviously try to run it as feasible as possible, and also looking at the energy price of that market at that time. Hope that answers the question.
Dear Paulus, there is an internal question about water leaks in the pipes in the CHP. Would you like to address it?
Vytautas, maybe you can comment more.
Hello to everybody. I would like to comment. It's this story is filmed during repairing, and maybe you can see some water, but it's not. If you have questions about leakages, the leakages are not very large in Vilnius. It's in 1 hour is about 10 tons per hour leakage. So then circulation in the heating network is about maybe 10,000 cubic meters per hour. So answer is such. Is it clear?
Thank you. Dear all, it's 3 o'clock. So the time is up for the virtual visit of Vilnius CHP plant. Thank you so much, Paulus and Vytautas, for being our guides and hosts. So this link is publicly available. I guess that our participants can keep wandering around. With that, I would like to ask all our speakers who are still with us to switch on their cameras and to close the official part of this final Upgrade DH event. So on behalf of the consortium, I would like obviously to thank the European Commission for funding this project. I would like personally to thank all project partners. It's been a great journey together. It's not yet over. The project will end in 15 days, so we still have a lot of work to do. And project results will be available on the Upgrade DH website. So in the coming months, you can check all the reports and deliverables of this project. We obviously remain available for any further questions, communications regarding the project. The recording of this event will be uploaded on YouTube, Euroheat Power YouTube channel, and the presentations will be shared with the participants of the event. So thank you once again, also to participants for remaining with us until now. And now I will stop the recording to give us some privacy for the networking part. So thank you and see you soon.
Bye.